Good evening and welcome to the Monday, November 22nd, Litchfield Board of Selectmen meeting. The board came out of a paperwork review and a non-public session under RSA 91A:32A, employee compensation. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First we have this evening is the review and approval of consent items. We have the account payroll manifest of November 16th, 2021 in the sum of $37,362.08 and November 23rd, 2021 in the sum of $1,229,035.13. We have a payroll manifest dated November 18th, 2021 in the sum of $58,461.93 and November 24th, 2021 in the sum of $56,084.77. We have land use change tax. We have one abatement. We have the fiscal year 2022 revised school payment schedule, and we have the treasurer's October reconciliation. Are there any items members would like to remove from consent? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. LaSalle's.
Second.
Second by Ms. Queenan. All those in favor, Mr. Larry,
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's,
Aye.
Mr. Lynch,
Aye.
Ms. Queenan.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0. Is there any other items members would like to add this evening?
Mr. Chairman, I just, as our conversation today, is I learned later today that when you and I had a conversation about a potential sidewalk discussion on
Yes.
3A, I did not put that on the agenda, and so that will come up this evening. I would suggest that we talk about that, after we get done the recreation, because we know we have recreation representation here. So after the ATV donation.
Okay, so we'll put it between ATV and asset.
Yeah, and that might put us, we may have a public comment before that time period, but with that placeholder there, the sidewalk discussion will occur.
Okay.
And following that, I'll explain, Mr. Charbonneau's here as well, Mr. Noseworthy. There's a document that we can discuss that we need to, I've asked the board to sign. It's going to be a deed correction, I guess you will, for the development, a piece of land down that came off from the Firefly development.
Okay. All right. So the first item of business is the approval of the November 8th, 2022 minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review? And if so, are there any comments or clarifications?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Larry.
I'll second it.
We have a second by Mr. Lynch. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Mr. Larry.
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's.
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
Aye.
Ms. Queenan.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0. The next item is Penachuk rate case. Mr. Brown.
Okay. This evening, we have Ryan Lorette, attorney from Shaheen Finney, which is representing the town of Litchfield and the town of Londonderry in the Penachuk rate case. I know that I've said this before, but I'll just remind you, when we initially started, we also had some other communities that started this process, but then decided they would no longer participate because it didn't financially make sense to their community. So it left Litchfield and Londonderry as the two communities that were involved in the rates case. Mr. Lorette is here this evening to talk to the board. He's had some meetings with this board in non-public session, and he's going to do his best to share information with you about where we're at with the case, but also he is required at this point in time to still keep his confidentiality provisions. So the board, the last meeting that you had in non-public, did request that we have a public conversation, but again, that conversation would be pretty a high-level discussion and not really into the details, because this matter is still ongoing, but we'll be talking this evening about a settlement agreement between all parties. So Ryan, with that being said, are you here with us?
I think I'm ready. If you can see my, I think my screen is shared. If you can see it,
No.
is that a cover of a PowerPoint?
No, we can
Not
hear you
yet.
speaking, but we don't see anything yet.
Okay, let me give it one more shot here. I've tried to share. Okay. That do the trick?
Yep, you're sharing, but it's very small.
Very small.
Postage stamp.
Matt, can you increase the size on our side?
I'm not sure.
There is a magnifying on the left-hand side.
Try. Okay, any better?
No.
I don't think there's anything you can do, Matt, because you're at full screen.
Do we have a copy of this? That's a PowerPoint, right?
You have it on your portal,
Okay.
just underneath the Penn check rate case caption.
This computer sucks. What is it mean? I can't get to it.
What's
So I'm not sure what
Did you
to
find it?
do on my
There's a-
end. I've tried to increase it, but it makes it.
Matt, what's that layout when it goes to full? What do you mean?
Yeah. All right, well, let's just proceed with what we can see.
Okay.
Better.
Use that right there.
Better.
There you go.
Hmm.
Okay, I gotta get that. Where is my button there? Sorry,
Okay.
technology. I'll try it again. Yeah,
Are we good?
Yeah.
Everyone's
Had it.
ready to proceed?
That's better.
Yes, we're good.
Perfect.
I'll get to it.
Okay, well, thank you very much for having me in again to speak with you all. As Troy said, my name is
You see that?
Brett. I'm from Sheehan City. Me and my colleagues have been representing Litchfield as well as Londonderry and a few other communities, as was just mentioned, in the town's intervention petition in the rate case of your water provider, Pennachuck East Utility. And I just briefly want to take a moment. I think this was covered pretty adequately, but to discuss kind of the goal for tonight and what I can and cannot say. So my goal is to give you all a brief update about the case, and particularly the settlement proposal that the town of Litchfield has an opportunity to enter into. Now, that being said, I'm going to do my best to provide the facts of how we got here, what PEU's initial proposal looked like. Those facts are all public. And the facts regarding what the proposed settlement numbers would provide and what it would mean for the town of Litchfield from a financial perspective. What I cannot do is provide any type of legal analysis or any type of legal advice to the town, given that this is a public setting. To the extent that any members of the board have a question or want to discuss anything in here, what I would suggest is that we go to a non-public session to do so. So with that being said, I'm going to proceed. If there's any clarification, though, on simple points, please feel free to speak up and ask. So the first thing I wanted to do was provide a procedural thumbnail, a sketch of where we are in the case and where it came from. So in September of 2020, PEU, Pennachuck East Utility, filed a proposed rate increase at the Public Utilities Commission. Now, this rate increase was their first rate increase in 3 years. The last one was 3 years ago, and what they were seeking initially was a 21.2% general rate increase. Now, that 21.2% increase was not intended or not proposed to be spread equally across the board among all classes. They had run a cost of a service study and had their own formula for which they thought certain classes should pay under the new proposed increase. Below, you'll see there are bullet points for some of the ones that are particularly relevant to Litchfield. The initial proposal suggested a 16% increase for fire protection customers. And then these two bottom bullet points are what the proposed increase for general water customers were. And when I say general water customers, I mean, everybody who has a meter rate, including the town. They had proposed a 25% increase for metered charges and a 16% increase for the customer service charge that all general water customers pay, or that most general water customers pay. So we've been litigating this case on behalf of Litchfield and the other town or towns for nearly a year. There is a proposed settlement that we have negotiated with TEU and some other parties that your town has an opportunity to enter into. What I would like to convey in this discussion that will follow is what that would mean financially for the town. And I think what you will see in these slides is that this settlement proposal would save Litchfield a significant amount of money compared to what it is currently paying, and certainly compared to what PEU initially proposed. So a high-level look at what the proposed settlement would provide. So this proposed settlement would cover the next 3 years of PEU's rates. PEU has told us that they've been very upfront about this, I believe, in public filings too, that they intend to file a rate case every 3 years. We're operating under the assumption that these numbers would govern the next 3 years. The main takeaway, I think, when evaluating this settlement is that the public fire protection charges are key. If you look at the spend that the town of Litchfield is currently writing for water, the vast majority of it goes to these fire protection charges and the public fire protection charges. Under PEU's initial proposal, and we'll get into these numbers specifically, but Litchfield's fire protection charges would have increased approximately $70,000 per year. The proposed settlement, it is a positive when compared to that and even compared to current rates, because the proposed settlement structure will have Litchfield actually paying $40,000 approximately less annually for public fire protection charges. When you net all of the potential increases in other categories of water spend, we anticipate that this proposed settlement structure would still net the town a savings of around approximately $34,000 per year. And that's even when you include the fact that some of the general consumption charges are going up. I just want to take a moment. We're about to get into numbers now. Some of the numbers that govern both the proposal and the settlement. And I just want to provide the caveat that all these are approximate numbers, particularly the consumption ones. They rely on an estimate looking what the town has spent previously on water and trying to figure out what it will spend in the future. But these are our best estimates as to what the numbers will look like. So this first slide is a breakdown of what the town is currently paying under existing rates. And it's good because it shows the buckets, so to speak, of or the categories of what the town is paying for water, paying to PEU at this point. So you have this first column, which is the general consumption water charge, and that's what most of PEU's customers pay, residential as well as commercial, and as well as the town is town too. This number, $26,000, or roughly 27 if you round up, is what we have averaged the town's consumption to be and the charges to be from 2017 to 2020. Now you'll see the next two columns are the fire protection charges. For some reason, we haven't been able to track it down, but around $10,000 of your fire protection charges. Some of those hydrants are allocated as private for fire protection, but as you can see, the vast majority of it is public fire protection charges. And that's to a tune of around $441,000 a year is what you are currently paying in the public fire protection realm. So the next slide here just takes that fire protection, public fire protection category and shows what PEU's initial proposal was. If you take a look at it, the left column here is the existing rates. PEU in its initial proposal suggested that Litchfield would be paying around $511,000 for its municipal fire protection charges. So that's a proposed increase of around $70,000 per year. This next slide focuses again on the municipal public fire protection charges, and it takes the information from the last slide and shows what the actual proposed settlement rate would be and what the savings are for that. So again, on this most left-hand column, you have PEU's initial proposal. Second column is what it is under existing rates, what Litchfield's fire protection charges are. This middle column is the proposed rates for fire protection charges for Litchfield under the proposed settlement. That's $400,000. When we go to the next column, that, as you can see, is around a $41,000 savings in existing rates. The furthest right-hand column takes that existing proposal and compares it against what PEU's initial proposal was. As you can see, that is a savings of around $112,000 per year. So this slide here zooms out a little bit further and shows what the rates would be for each of the categories that we discussed previously that you currently pay to PEU for your water usage. The left-hand column, this general water consumption category of consumer, we anticipate that the town's cost under that category will rise about approximately $6,000. That has an asterisk on it, as you can see. First of all, one asterisk is that's like I talked about, based on just an estimate of what consumption would be. And the estimate that we've used here for an increase is around 22%, although most general customers will be in a range of around 20 to 25%. So that's kind of a conservative midpoint. The second column is the private fire protection column. That's going to stay the same under this proposed settlement. And this third column is what we've been focusing on. Obviously, it's public fire protection charges, and as we discussed, that is slated under this proposed settlement to decrease by about $40,000. You look at this, the 40,000 minus the 6,000, that's where the $34,000 savings number that I quoted to you earlier comes from. That's an approximate savings per year.
Excuse me.
Yes.
This is Selectman Losalis. I have a question on this slide before you go any further. Most of your presentation here has been concerning fire protection charges. And we seem to be making a big deal about the fact that we're decreasing fire protection charges by $40,000. Now, most of the people who are watching this, members of the public, could care less about saving $40,000 in fire protection charges. They're more worried about the 22 to 25% increase in their water bill. And to me, this whole thing makes me sick. It makes me totally sick that we're here in Litchfield, we're paying the highest water charges of just about anybody, and they asked for a 21.6% increase, and they end up with a 22% increase. To me, for the average water customer of Pennachuck, we're running up the white flag, and the whole thing makes me sick. Now, we may be backed in a corner here on this, but from my standpoint, we're talking about saving $40,000 in fire protection charges, but the big deal here is that the average water customer is going to be paying through the nose. Not that they're not already, but they're going to be paying 22% more, which I'll trade you. You can take the $40,000, and the average water customer, this is not a victory by any step. It makes me sick. I'm off my pedestal.
No, Mr. Masai, I understand your point. I would note that obviously any money that, you guys know this better than I, but any money that the town saves is going to save your residents' money in taxes. That's certain. But I'd love to go into it further with you about the particular increases. If you want, we can go non-public and do that. I'm not in a position to get into the nitty-gritty of that with you in a public forum. I understand your concern. I understand that 21% is a large number for an increase, particularly for folks who may not have even wanted to have been on the pension system. I hear all of that. It's a 21% increase over 3 years. It's close to a 7% increase per year. I get all that. I understand where you're coming from. Again, if you want to discuss some of the intricacies of that, we certainly can do that in a non-public forum.
Do you know how much, based upon our average consumption of the townspeople overall, all the customers, how much they paid into Pennachuck and how much they will be paying into Pennachuck with this 22% increase?
You're asking me for the total number of Litchfield customers, what they paid under the previous regime?
Yes.
What they paid under the regime? I don't know.
You don't have that number? Is there?
We have that information. I doubt we have that granular of information.
Is there a way we can turn in some fire hydrants?
The cornfields don't need
In
them.
other words, you mean decommission them?
Yes. Spending $500,000 on fire hydrants to me is a little bit ludicrous. I'd like to turn some in.
Okay. I would say these are policy decisions that certainly precede my representation with the town. If you want, I can look into that. Again, it's not something that I would recommend or counsel that we discuss in the public forum.
Okay.
Zach, any other questions on that slide?
Oh, thank you.
He wasn't gonna say anything.
Okay, so this is the last thing that I have, and it's looking forward in the future and talking about what is next. If you do approve of this settlement, you'll give me and my firm the authority to execute the settlement on which behalf. We will submit the settlement to all the other parties who agree to the PUC on December 7th. There will then be a hearing on December 15th at the PUC to approve of the settlement. This is not like in regular civil litigation in which every settlement is rubber stamped. I anticipate the PUC will look at it to make sure that the settlement is just and reasonable as it is required to do. But I think we are hopeful that if agreed to, it will be. Are there any other questions?
I think, Ryan, it's important to note that it's my understanding that the town of Londonderry, that town council has voted to support the settlement agreement.
I believe you said you saw that in a paper, public paper. That's my understanding as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Question, the rates that we're gotten here in this agreement compared to Londonderry and Litchfield, what is their rate compared to our rate?
Sorry, can you say that one more time? I apologize.
When you guys, Kevin Lynch, Selectman, it's Kevin Lynch, Selectman, excuse me. I'm looking at, it's all about rates. Does Londonderry in their book, in their agreement, did they have a lesser charge than we have now?
So this is a joint settlement agreement that we would be entering into. So Londonderry would be a party to it. It wouldn't be a bilateral agreement between just Litchfield and PU.
So the numbers are the same.
What?
The numbers are the same then, correct? On a rate?
Absolutely no. Litchfield, I believe, would make out a little bit better because Litchfield has more public hydrants and more public hydrant charges.
Yeah.
So Litchfield serves to save more money under this proposal than one.
Okay. Thank you.
But the rate, I think, maybe what you're asking, the rates that are agreed to will be the rates charged to
Them.
all the customers and all the fire protection services
Both
for
towns.
all the entities and customers in the Pennachuck East Utility
Okay.
District,
Just one.
which, consists of, I believe, over 15 communities, but the rates are the same in all those communities.
Still can't get over the hydrant rentals. Wow. I'm agreeing with it.
I can tell you that the hydrant rates are going down. It's a negative number, whereas a lot of the other rates are obviously increasing.
I understand.
You, Litchfield, are one of the biggest, if not, I believe, are the biggest spender in that category of public hydrants.
We get the trophy.
We got the yellow sticks. No.
I do have a question, but it's not, it's related, but it's not. Since we have the fire department here, maybe they know as well, but can tanker trucks do anything to reduce the number of hydrants?
You can use tankers and when there's no hydrants, you can, but.
That is not a question I have.
Oh, not for you, not for you. I'm just saying in general, if we're making $400,000 or $500,000 investment a year for 5-10 years, does it make sense to buy tankers and reduce the cost of hydrants? I don't know.
You never have enough tankers or probably people that drive those tankers, so you would rely heavily on mutual aid, which we kind of have that agreement now. If there's a fire, we can pull in tankers from other communities, same as we do in other communities, but I tanker.
I'm just asking you to explore if we buy more tankers or we go in with people, if we could just reduce 5 hydrants or 10 hydrants, I don't know. But is it technically feasible to do it, or do you need 5 tanker trucks to show up with 1 hydrant? I have no idea.
Not a question that can be answered tonight.
Okay. Just maybe in the future, because we're looking at a December 7th deadline here, but. Okay.
More, less tankers.
You're thinking right, Kim.
You are.
It's my brother.
So Ryan, you're looking for this board to give you direction or to officially vote on this evening. That's correct?
I am, yes.
We got no choice.
The board approves, I would like authority to enter into a settlement agreement on behalf of the town of Litchfield, that is consistent with the that is set forth.
Okay, based on that, do we have a motion to approve the settlement agreement that has been brought forth?
We have a timeline, right?
Yeah.
The timeline is end of this year. If we do nothing,
We don't
Then
meet
we-
again before
Yeah,
December 7th, right? Do we meet again
correct.
before
We do not, no.
So
In the cost of litigation,
it's,
based off of
Mhm.
legal advice we got,
so is at what level of, for lack of a better term, scrutiny do we want them
just-
to give us?
Quickly, if you all want to debate this and discuss the legal advice that you've been given, I would recommend doing so in a non-public.
correct.
I mean, we really don't have any alternative, right?
We don't.
No, that's the problem.
I think it's particularly significant that December 7th is the date here.
Yeah, think about it. You military guys.
I feel like Pearl Harbor. I don't want to make the motion.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Larry, second by Mr. Lynch.
Yep.
Any further discussion?
It's just what level we want them to put it to us, and this is obviously less. So
Unfortunately, it is. All those in favor, Mr. Larry,
I,
Mr. LaSalle's,
No.
Mr. Lynch,
Aye.
Ms. Queenan.
aye.
I am also an aye. Motion passes 4-1-0.
I do want to say I agree with Rich 100%. On the hydrant cost is the biggest factor there.
Yeah.
Is that the yearly cost.
Well,
And then you got
It's-
to deal with the rate increases.
it's not just the hydrants, though.
it's overall,
The people are paying for
No competition.
water costs, and they're not getting a break.
Nope.
They projected it'd be 21.6. Well, it's 22. It's not a break at all. But not that we have a choice.
And that's,
And this matter will be coming back to the board or the town in about 2.5 years.
Yep.
Or less, because they tend to set their rates every 3 years, is my understanding.
When will this rate take effect?
Correct.
So there's been a temporary rate that's already been imposed. When would the actual permanent rates take effect if they're approved? Ryan?
I'm not sure. I think that's one of the things that's still up in the air. And get the precise time of that.
I think it's 6 months ago.
Yeah, so it's, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but there's been a temporary rate that's been put into effect. It's around 14.5% increase. So if you're a water user, you're currently paying that fee right now. When the permanent rates put into effect, it will be retroactive back to December 2020.
There's a reconciliation process, yes, that goes both ways. And I believe it was, the temporary rates go back to essentially Christmas Eve of last year.
Boy, not only do they get you coming and going, but they get you where you've been.
Yep. If it wasn't for
We
PFOAs,
anticipate that there will be some savings to the town, some improvement.
St. Cobain willing to pick up the increase?
Okay, so
All right.
All right. Thank you very much, Ryan. We appreciate everything.
Great, thank you very much. Appreciate being
Thanks,
able to talk to you all.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
You too, take care.
Be well. You want to do public? You want to go to Paracheck? I mean, you go to the fire truck.
I think we should do the fire truck and the command vehicle and then the recreation stuff and then we'll
Okay.
move on to recreation.
Sounds good. All right. Next, we have fire truck committee report. Mr. Brown.
All right. As you can see, we have members representation here from our fire department. Chief Freitzel, Deputy Chief Nickel, and members of the fire truck committee. I believe the deputy is going to present, but he's missing in action right now. So you're going to do the command vehicle, Chief? Or you want to just, okay.
So as Troy mentioned, the truck committee, that's part of the truck committee is with us here this evening. They'll actually be presenting. They've been working on this truck for over a year. He's back, so we're good. So you can come on up, Deputy. So I'd be remiss if I presented something that they are much more intimately familiar with and can field the questions. So I will turn it over to the deputy and the truck committee. The committee represents one member from each of the three companies within the department, our part-time mechanic, and overseen by the deputy. So with that, I will turn it over to him, and I will be in the back if there's any questions.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So, as the chief was saying, we had a truck committee made up of different members of the department. We have a paramedic. We have all three people behind me are all with full-time city departments or larger departments. Have a lot of experience both on call departments and on full-time departments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to each person. We're going to start out with Corey Fecto, who is our part-time mechanic. He's going to give a presentation followed by Craig Cartier, who is one of our call companies.
Good evening. Deputy introduced me. My name's Corey Fecto. I've been with Litchfield for about 9 years, full-time firefighter for about 15 years. And all in all, the past 30 years, I've worked in and out as being a mechanic, been a fleet manager for the city of Berlin, as well as for the pulp and paper mills up in Berlin. I'd like to speak to you a little bit about why that we're even here asking for a new engine here tonight. Pardon me. NFPA 1911. NFPA is the National Fire Protection Association. I'm sure most of you are familiar with them in some way. Standard 1911 deals with fire truck, fire apparatus, and retirement and service fire apparatus. One of the big things that came out in 2017 was NFPA's recommendation for retirement of fire apparatus. There's an appendices they added there, appendices D, that basically stated that no fire apparatus should be in service past 25 years. And that is a should, not the shall, but the should. It's their recommendation. It's the standard that we should follow. That being said, there are reasons for that. There are options to refurbish fire engines. There are some towns that do that. It's fallen out of favor over the past couple of decades because it's not cost effective, because a refurbished fire apparatus is still a 25 or a 30-year-old fire apparatus. There are some things on these fire apparatus that can't or not cost effective to retrofit. One of the biggest things that they're finding is with firefighters over the years is hearing deficit. I'm certainly a good candidate for that. Noise levels in cabs from what the standards that were 25 years ago compared to what they are now, they are significantly increased. They're much more quiet in the cab for many reasons. It's for the firefighter safety, but not only that, it's for communication. Another thing is a lot of the safety systems, ABS systems, anti-lock brake systems that are not on a fire apparatus that we're looking to replace. It's also, I'm sorry, got some more notes here. Warning lights that are on current fire apparatus don't meet the current standards. Yes, there are things that we can do to retrofit them, but again, we're still trying to retrofit a 25-year-old apparatus that it's got a finite lifespan. We know that anything mechanical that's put together comes apart. While the fleet is in better shape than it has been in a long time, it is time to replace our old engine too. It's old enough that we can do things to provide better equipment for our firefighters, better equipment for our citizens for our response. The biggest thing that I want to have you take away with tonight is the abilities. You have serviceability, you have reliability, and then you have parts availability. All those things decrease with every year that goes by. And every year that goes by, cost of maintenance increases. And given our current climate with our increases on costs on everything, my wife told me what the oil tank cost to fill up today. I was a little shocked. But yeah, and that's why we need a new fire apparatus. And we've worked hard these past year and a half, meeting with numerous vendors over and over again, going over what spec is going to best serve our department, what spec is best going to serve our town. And if I may, Dr. McQueen?
Queenan, yep.
Okay. There's only one thing I'd like to add. You had a question earlier about tankers in this.
I was just questioning if
Oh,
we
if
could
I-
reduce hydrants. for
If
more
I may, Steve, if I may, I just want to. Most of our pumps on our apparatus are capable of 1,500 gallons a minute or more.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, our tanker only provides 2,500 gallons. So we need numerous tankers from numerous towns to do any effective response for any structure fire. Hydrants are definitely the best pipeline for us to go down for that.
What's the model year of engine 2?
Engine 2 is 1994. Is that correct? 95.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There are towns, this is something that was brought to me by a fellow budget committee member. There are towns that recycle their vehicles every 10 years.
Yes.
Have you looked into purchasing one of those to save the taxpayers some money?
Well, I'm going to let the deputy chief speak to a little bit more of the financials with that. The only thing that I can say is getting something that's 10 years old puts you 10 years behind the time, even with the technology that we have with advances for the responders, and as well as 10 years wear and tear on the vehicle. These are apparatus that don't typically go around like most commercial vehicles. I mean, it is a commercial vehicle. It does weigh. It's built to respond. It's built to last. Don't get me wrong. But a vehicle that spent 25 years of getting started quick, drive rapidly, stop quickly, another hard acceleration, another hard stop. And then when you get there, you actually have to run it at extreme high RPMs to generate the pump pressure that you need to for a fire. So fire apparatus do always see very, very severe duty. So having 10 years really does put the town behind the times as far as doing that. I do understand the savings, but I don't think it's a savings. I think you're just kicking the can down the road, so to speak, 10 years later. You're going to be buying somebody else's problem sometimes because they've gotten rid of them after 10 years because of those same three issues: the serviceability, reliability, and parts availability.
So judging by that answer, I'll assume it's no.
Well, like I said, I'll let the deputy chief speak to the
So he's
financial
laughing,
end of it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I got a question. Is the fire truck companies done anything to prevent the truck that has to regen? during fire?
There are systems in place for that. You can actually, there are safety systems because you don't want to have that pump shutting down or doing anything erratic on the engine for that
The
time.
reason why I asked that, all the new trucks, they run on a fluid.
Mhm.
So you could be going down the road and that you have to stop the truck and do a regen, which would take 45 minutes.
Yeah, Mrs. Chavin was referring to what's called the Tier 4 diesels that run on diesel exhaust fluid to reduce the NOx emissions. With that, there are some things that the truck is not capable of doing at certain times when it's in that mode. However, when the truck knows that it's actually pumping and not driving down the road, it automatically bypasses that system to keep the truck running optimum
So that's what they've done. They've bypassed it for some.
when it's in pump. Yeah,
For as long as it'll let it do it, though. It could still shut it off.
exactly.
Are they ever going to run fire trucks on batteries?
I'd imagine they would. I don't think I'm going to be alive to see it. I don't think there's enough cobalt that they can mine to.
So, you know,
run a
they're
fire
talking
truck.
about airplanes. So if they're doing airplanes,
Yeah, maybe it'll be solar powered. I don't know.
That's Joe. I bet he wants one.
Yeah, I don't think we can mine enough cobalt to run a fire engine right now.
really.
They haven't come out with a prototype yet, but it's in the works.
And they'll only be able to handle 1,000 gallons of water. Because that's so many batteries.
Yeah. But I'm being facetious, but the technology is changing so rapidly.
Absolutely.
And, you know,
Absolutely. The sheer power that they can get out of the same cubic inch displacement that they used 10 years ago it's amazing, just from the different burn styles that they use for fuel on just the injectors by metering it differently. It's remarkable. It really is. Because they'll use the same engine, same exact engine that will be 350 horsepower. By plugging the computer on it, they'll make it 475 horsepower. By just change, of course, there's a little markup when they do that. But it is, for all intents and purposes, the same engine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening.
Good evening.
So my name's Craig Cartier. I've been a firefighter here in town for 6 years. I'm a firefighter AMT. I'm the representative for Company One. I work as a full-time firefighter in the city of Manchester, and I also am a call fireman for volunteer in Candia. I've been on a truck committee there in Candia also, so it's not my first time doing the truck committee. I was here to talk about the difference between a rural engine and a city engine and kind of where we fit in the middle. We're more of a suburb town, not full rural, and we're not the city aspect. So in the city of Manchester, we only run 710 gallons of water. Our ladder trucks, except for one's called a Quint, it carries some water with a ladder. These ladder trucks carry all our tools. There's a lot of extra tools. Our fire engines are very cookie cutter. They have hose, water, they have the appliances to do so, and that crew focuses on that job only. Ladder crews focus on ladders only. We also have a rescue truck that does all our car extrication. It does all our specialty rescue, ropes, airbags, different rescues like that. So as a rural department or suburban fire department, you need to put all of those things in one truck. We often have multiple calls coming in at once, being either double medical or a medical and a fire call or multiple fire calls at once. So us here in Litchfield need to apply a fire truck that's going to work for that. If our rescue truck's out for a medical, we need to have all the medical equipment on the next truck to be able to go to the next incident. As you were saying, for the trucks looking at another fire department, one of our stations right now is roughly just a little bit over 700 calls, being one of the slower. I mean, there's really busy fire engines and some slower. So when they decrease that engine, they're at the 700 call mark or a little bit more. We're upwards of 600 calls here in Litchfield. So you're kind of taking a truck that's doing almost the same thing and kind of putting it here. Another aspect of why our fire truck is going to carry a little bit more water, being that rural, some of our distances on hydrants is a little bit different. It's a reserve water for us that's in the building. If you run into any issues being hydrants or pump pressures or anything like that, it's a backup and security to the members that are inside the building. Matt's going to talk a little bit more about how, where his department, they change their apparatus depending on their district.
My name is Matt Tropiano. I've been a member of the call department here for 3 years. I'm a full-time firefighter paramedic in the town of Derry, and I was also full-time in the town of Hooksett. Both those towns, we have multiple stations. We both set the trucks up differently for different districts. So in Derry, we have one town over by Beaver Lake and Big Island Pond that has very tight streets going around the shore, so that wheelbase is much shorter. That also carries some more water rescue things for its particular district of responses. All those trucks carry 1,000 gallons of water, with the exception of our ladder truck, which carries 500 gallons. The town of Hooksett, they have one dedicated engine that goes on the highway, so it carries all the extrication tools required for that. Obviously, we don't have much of a highway like they do in Hooksett and Derry, but we also don't have the luxury of multiple stations to choose, like, this engine covers Dara Pond, so it needs to have all the water rescue equipment. So we need some bigger compartmentation to handle the new jobs that we're doing with the fire department. As well as on the medical side, it seems every day we're carrying more and more equipment into calls, whether it be CPR assist devices like Lucas's or cardiac monitors to diagnose STEMIs. And all the medications we have. Our medication box grows, it seems like, every protocol rollout. So as well as, because we have paramedics on the department, we carry narcotics. So all of our trucks have to have narcotic safes to keep compliant with the state protocols. So these are all reasons we need to have a good truck that will necessarily answer as best it can for all of our potential calls.
We're along a river. Do you have a rubber boat that you can pull out of the compartment, blow it up, and get on the river faster than we can now?
They do have the rescue boat, right?
Yeah,
We do have a boat. Yes.
Rescue boat.
It's the heaviest boat in town.
We still have a rescue boat, and anything involved in the river is going to involve multiple different agencies to be able to get down there. Just like at work, we put a large resource out to the river if there's any potential victims in there. So we would do the same here in Litchfield.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thanks, fellas.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, he's coming back.
Now you get me. So I just wanted to go over a couple key things. So engine 2 is a 1995. It's got 66,786 miles on it, road miles.
Do you have, excuse me, all of this in a spreadsheet?
I don't have it. I have notes from between what we did last year as a committee and this year.
I'd like to see your whole fleet.
Yeah.
What the mileage, the years and so forth.
I have all that information.
If you could
Yeah,
forward that to us.
right. So what I'd like to do is, after we're done with this, that would be the next thing after we finalize the truck, is I would have all that for if the board decides to bring it to warrant article, I would have all that information to lay out. But the entire fleet has been analyzed by a fire apparatus manufacturer in New Hampshire. And we've gone through every truck to see where they're at, where they're going, and what they may need for work coming down the road.
Okay.
So, so the truck has the mileage that I talked about on it. I know last year when I came before the board, I heard afterwards that people were saying, I drive a truck for Walmart or whatever, and it's not uncommon to put 1 million miles on a diesel engine. The difference is, a truck, even a Continental truck driving 55, 60 miles an hour may put a lot of road miles on it, but it's not doing the hard wear and tear that we're doing. We have 20, 30 different individuals driving the trucks. Everybody has different driving habits. You have different conditions you drive in. As Corey alluded to, you have hard stops, you have quick corners, you have different things that happen. And the trucks are a quick startup, they don't warm up. And then when they do go to a fire, they pump hard for a long time. Now, there is a formula, and I presented it last year. We also have pump hours on the truck, and we also have engine hours. So engine 2 has 6,328 engine hours on it, and it has 6,249 pump hours on it. Now, the pump hours are pumping at fires, it's training, it's whatever has to do with the pump. There's a formula that you can do that converts the engine hours and the pump hours into road miles. And when you do that conversion between the two, there's 754,620 hard miles on engine 2. And you have to realize that when we do go to a fire, the truck's there for 3 or 4 hours pumping hard. But even once the fire is out, the truck's still running and running water through it probably for 4 to 6 hours after as well. It's overhauled and it's investigated and whatnot. And then just like what I mentioned, we did go up to Lakes Region Fire Apparatus, which is up in Tamworth, New Hampshire. They're an apparatus builder. They do build fire trucks, but they also do a lot of maintenance of fire trucks. The entire fleet was evaluated about a month ago. The only thing that we did not have evaluated was the new pickup truck and the forestry truck that we got from the federal government. Those are the only 2 things that weren't evaluated. Engine 2, when it went up there, needs between $30,000 and $62,000 worth of work to it to bring it to where it really should be right now. Some of it is $15,000 worth of component repairs, power steering pumps, the electronic transmission control that controls the truck. It's the digital pad that are on all the trucks. And we found out this year that there's water leaking into the fire pump. Where the oil is supposed to be by itself, there's water that's in there. And the truck has already been overhauled, as far as I remember, at least twice since we've had it. And we were given an estimate between $15,000 and $32,000 to overhaul the pump. Now, again, you're talking almost in 2022, this truck will be 27 years old. Do you want to be putting $62,000 into a truck? Same as if you were talking about putting a transmission or something in your car, just something to think about. And then, let's see, 2 seconds. So now I just want to go over our replacement program. So back in the 1990s, the fire department, once they had gotten their initial allotment of fire trucks through the 50s and 60s, decided that we had to come up with a replacement program. As Corey spoke about, lifespan of a fire truck is about 25 years. So usually a good replacement is around 15, 20 years. And what you do is you cycle the trucks through. So you start out, you buy a brand new truck, you run it for the first couple of years, get any warranties out of it. It's your newest truck. That's what you do with it. Your second due truck is your next oldest truck. So then when there's other calls that require more apparatus, it goes and it can be used as a backup truck. Your third truck typically in that rotation is your oldest truck, which engine 2 is. Your oldest truck generally is, if we go mutual aid to Manchester and we send an engine to Manchester, we still have to cover the town of Litchfield. So now we still have 2 engines that are dedicated to the town. And we had this summer 3 times where engine 1, our 2003, our newest truck, was out of service twice for 2 weeks at a time because of repairs that needed to be made to our newest truck. So in that case, engine 2 was a second due truck in that case. So in 1992, we started the truck replacement program. The tanker, which is the oldest truck, was bought. We did a lease payment. I think it was like, I'll just throw out a number, say $50,000 a year for 5 years for a payment. As we got up to the 4th year, we were designing the next truck to replace, and we ended up getting engine 2, which is the truck we're talking about tonight. Engine 2 was replaced, and then 5 years after that, we went into where we are now with our engine 4, which is an 01. When we got to that point, you would have thought 5 years later we would have bought a new truck. But the truck that's doing the same thing as engine 2 tonight, our third due engine, it was a 1990 Ford running third due, so it wasn't really doing many calls. All of a sudden, after being 24 years old, it sprung a leak in the water tank. And then we went to go have it state inspected and found out that it failed inspection because the frame rails had cracks, stress cracks in them, and it's illegal to weld them. So the truck was decommissioned, and the Litchfield Board of Selectmen had to make an emergency purchase of a fire truck, which is the 2003 E1 that is our newest truck now. So out of the clear blue, the town had to come up with money and financing to replace a truck that was out of service that prior to that had no issues with it. Now a fire truck, they're all custom made. They take anywhere from, in the past, it was only a year to build them. So it's not like you can just go out and, as Mr. Leary said, go buy a used fire truck. It's my personal opinion that buying somebody else's truck is buying somebody else's problem. You don't get rid of a 10-year-old fire truck unless there's an issue with it. You do the same thing that we're doing tonight, and you talk about doing the 20-year deal where after 20 years, you retire it. So what happened with engine 1 is we were very fortunate that each manufacturer tries to have what they call a demonstration model. You want to see the quality of build, just like that's what we've done in the past year. We've had every manufacturer, for the most part, that could find a demo truck, because they circuit the country. So there may be 2 demo trucks for a certain manufacturer, but one could be in Indiana, one could be in Florida, and you got to wait till they bring one to the East Coast so that you can try one out. We were fortunate enough that when the old engine 1 at the time died, there were 2 trucks on the East Coast that may have fit our bill. But we had 1 truck at the time because we had the old fire station, and we didn't really have much of a choice of what would fit in the garage. So we ended up being lucky enough to be able to purchase this demo truck, which solved our issue. And that may not always be the case. Today, as I sit here and talking to you tonight, the average build time for a new fire truck is about 1.5 years. From the time that you sign the contract for it till the time that we get it. They're talking, and it could be a little bit longer than that. So if we were to buy a truck this year in 2022, you would, at the earliest, see it probably late summer of 23, if not the fall of 23. Um, So so what I would like to do, and I think what would be in the best interest of the town, is I think we need to get back onto a lease purchase program. All of our trucks are all in their high 20-year-old. I mean, we have a 19-year-old truck, a 21, a 27, a 30, and a 24-year-old truck. Again, 24 is where the old engine one went, and that's one of our youngest vehicles. Anything could happen. You know, we're taking our chances. We need to get back on a 5-year rotation so that we've done our due diligence in the last year. We've come up with a truck that will fit what works for us. And then in the future, if we can get into a 5-year payment like we did before, the impact to the taxpayer is lower, because before what we did is, say you have a $61,000 truck payment, and then by inflation the next year, the costs increase for that same payment $2,000. Taxpayer isn't trying to raise more money because it's in the budget, and all we're doing is we're raising the difference in the lease payment to the next vehicle. And that's how we got 3 vehicles in the past. We stopped it back in 2010 because in 2010, the town, we were in default budgets. We were trying to do what we could to take the mileage off of the fire trucks. A fire truck gets 4 miles to the gallon. The rescue truck that replaced it gets 11 miles to the gallon. And the difference is you have, a 43,000 pound truck versus a 20,000 pound truck. So the wear and tear was all there. So initially when Chief Schofield came before the voters back in 2010, his intention was to try and save about 3 years so that the town could get out of default budgets and everything, get us something that would do medical calls, and then get back on a lease purchase rotation. Well, 9 years later, we still haven't got back onto that lease purchase rotation. And again, we're trying to play catch up. So if the board would support a warrant article, we could do a lease purchase, do a 5-year rotation, and then in 5 years, take the same framework of everything that we've already done in the last year and a half, and buy probably the same truck other than the cost of whatever, inflation is, and eventually standardize our fleet so all 3 engines are the same. It makes it easier for us to train new personnel when they come in. It's right now we have 3 trucks and every truck is different. So we try to keep them as mirrored as we can. So then it's easy to know where certain items are, so that when you're in the moment at an emergency, it's easy to find stuff. Right now, we can't do that. Years ago, we were working and striving towards that, and then it fell apart when we stopped doing the lease purchase program.
Question, Doug. Unless all your fire trucks are purchased at the same time, you're never going to have identical fire trucks, though, right?
Well, so to what Craig was saying about the city of Manchester. City of Manchester's been buying fire trucks for the last 30 years. They have a Manchester spec for their fire truck. So it doesn't matter the changes in the cabs and the new technology for roll protection and airbags and whatnot. All the compartmentation, the body of the truck is set up exactly the same way.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter. They have 11 engines in the city of Manchester, all 11 engines. Craig can work at one station and go do an overtime shift at another station, and everything is exactly or pretty close to the way every other truck is.
Okay. And your newest truck is 19 years old, correct?
Our newest truck is 19 years old.
Okay.
Yes. So last year when I came before the board, fire trucks again have gone up by leaps and bounds. The last fire truck that the town bought, we paid around $263,000 for. And last year, as before the board looking for a truck, we were talking about $682,000. Because of this past year, and just like anything else, whether you're talking fire station, I heard you guys talking about recreation, about road salt, everything has gone up a grand amount. So over last year's pricing, the truck that last year was $682,000, we're now talking about $720,000. They went up by 30 to 40% last year. They will, any manufacturer will not lock in a price for more than 60 to 75 days. They just had a 4% rate increase when we just met with one of the vendors this morning, and he said they just had a 4% increase. The town of Amherst brought their brand new truck that they just got 2 weeks ago, and there's a $30,000 difference in the price of what they paid for their truck to what that same truck is. I talked to the manufacturer. I asked for the price of the Amherst truck today, and it's already gone up $30,000 from when Amherst bought their truck. So what we're asking for is to see if you would support a warrant article to not exceed $720,000. In January, we can get a price lock on a truck. We're fine tuning everything now. We're trying to see where we can cut some things out in order to drop the price of the truck. But it's that unknown of after January, there could be, I've heard from some manufacturers, it's going to be a 3% increase. I heard from somebody else, it may not happen. So by asking for the 720, that would be the highest, and hopefully we'll have it for, we can get it for a lot cheaper. And then if it's supported by the board, then come during the deliberative session, then we would go in and have a final number and ask to amend the amount. Just like last year, I did get pricing for a 3-year, 5-year, 7-year, and a 10-year lease purchase. This one vendor that we're looking at that's very reputable, and I would say most of the cities and larger towns purchase from this vendor. They have their own finance department. If the town were to enter an agreement with them and use their finance department, they will take $15,000 off the top price of the truck. So it's something that I can give to Troy. Troy can look and see what financing the town can get, but it's an option that there's a possibility of taking $15,000 right off the front, because it's going to go right from their finance department and basically pay up front for the fire truck to their own manufacturer.
What is their finance rate?
So right now for a 7-year lease purchase, it's 2.69, and for 10 years, it's 2.79. A 10-year payment is $78,978, and a 7-year payment is $108,028.
Finance charges.
I'm sorry?
And finance charges?
That's over the course of the loan. Yeah.
Maybe we can get a good truck from China.
Oh, maybe.
No, they're in the boats.
So the other thing that I want to let you know too is just like what I'm talking about, the truck dying in the past, just to put it in perspective to you. So in 2003, when Chief Schofield got the demo truck that's running as engine one, our newest truck, the town of Pelham was exactly in the situation that we find ourselves in today. They had 3 mainline engines that were all in the 20-year age range, and all 3 trucks failed inspection the same year, and they had no fire trucks for fire protection. Now, normally you can go, the city of Manchester usually keeps a spare engine, or Salem or somebody keeps a spare engine. Nobody had spare engines for anybody to borrow. So we actually loaned our engine one, the newest truck that we had. We had barely had it for a short period, and it actually ran fire calls in the town of Pelham for a month while Pelham had repairs made to their trucks. And out of their 3 trucks, only one passed inspection after it was fixed, and they had to do 2 emergency purchases of vehicles. And even today, the town of Hudson, if you happen to see a Pelham ambulance running through the town of Litchfield, Hudson's newest ambulance blew a turbo about 2 weeks ago, and they're running Pelham spare ambulance right now. So I'm just throwing it out there that it can happen, and it does happen. And, you know, like I said, I wouldn't be doing my due diligence up here. Just letting you know that the longer we kick the can down the road, the more chances are we're going to run into something severe or detrimental for the town. The only last thing that I would like to leave you with is I also mentioned last year, going out for RFPs and going out for sealed bids is a thing of the past. Just like how you have state bid pricing, every truck manufacturer has at least 2 to 3 competitive bid processes that they use. And it's already, they take everything that there is for a fire truck, whether it's the seats, the pump, the foam system, everything goes out to competitive bid. And because it's a large buying consortium, like we've bought pickup trucks through Mass State Bid. Well, there's a Galveston, Texas consortium, and they're the largest fire apparatus user in the country. And they do a bidding process that all the manufacturers fall under. And then there's 2 other bids, and then there's a government bid. By going through this bid process, the bidding's already been done. When we give you the price, we're getting the rock bottom price that we can get for a fire truck instead of going through and doing the bidding process, taking out ads, opening the bids and trying to see apples for apples. Basically, we can go in and come to you and have the lowest price that you're actually ever going to get on a fire truck. So I'm hoping that if the board supports doing this purchase, that's what we can do. The town of Hudson, Londonderry, Salem, Dover, Manchester, Nashua, they all they all use this same buying process.
Question. Is there less manufacturers of trucks out there?
No, so there's this, we looked at 7 manufacturers last year. And out of the 7, we're down to 3. We looked at being within 2 hours of a service facility, a major service facility. We looked at workmanship. Some of the manufacturers that are out there, Kevin, that you and I know from the early years of buying the fire. No, I'm just trying to explain to you. Some of the manufacturers are having issues with quality control. So out of the 7 that we looked at, ones that are big names that normally you would be like, wow, that's like cream de la creme. That's a good manufacturer. I wouldn't even recommend using anymore because they've had nothing but issues and trucks going back to the factory and whatnot. The 3 manufacturers that we're down to are very good quality vehicles. They can be serviced within 2 hours. And the other thing that we had issues with was people getting back to us. There's many salesmen that, they would talk to you and then you're chasing them around and they're not even calling you back. So the 3 manufacturers have been very straightforward with us. They've given us, and we've made changes, and we've gone to shows and looked at other apparatus from other departments to get ideas to what would work the best for the town of Litchfield.
Who are the 3 that you're looking at now?
So we're looking at Emergency One, E1, which is what Boston uses, what the city of Manchester uses. There's a company called Toyne, which a lot of companies out on the seacoast are using, and now Amherst, Mount Vernon. There's a whole bunch of other smaller communities that are using Toyne now.
How do you spell that?
Toyne.
Okay.
And the city of Rochester, actually, that's all they're running now are Toyne engines. They've got like 7 Toyne engines and a Toyne Rescue. And then the third one is HME. And HME, town of Bedford uses them. There's a lot of other, I mean, they're all over the place. Trying to think of who else uses
The New Hampshire Fire Academy, Brentwood.
Milford.
I remember American La France.
Yeah, they're out of business.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, the COVID.
Yeah. So we've done everything that we can, like I said, to come down with the top 3. We're still waiting to get final pricing, and we're working with the 3 to see who's going to give us the best bang for the town's buck. And then we'll be able to come back to you with, this is the truck that we want to buy. But they all have, we actually, the committee, we actually made a spec of what we were looking for. And we fine tuned it. Each vendor gave us some ideas of how to tweak it to get the best bang for the town's buck. And like I said, we're just waiting to get those final, the hard thing is, just like anything that's going on and what we've talked about in the past, is everybody is hurting for workers. So there's a delay in getting diagrams of the trucks. There's delays in when we send in what we're looking for them to come back with weights and what the height and the length of the truck will be and all that good stuff. So that's where we're at right now. Is we've been given initial prices. Now we're waiting for all the hard paper copies to come in of what they're proposing.
What kind of engine do they put in the truck?
Everybody's running Cummins now. So they're running anywhere from a Cummins 350 all the way up to a 600. Yeah.
And just talking about the 10-year-old truck, from 08 to 13, if they gave it to you, you don't want it. Because the engine is when they first started coming out with the emissions. And from 08 is the worst. And after 13, they started getting better. But now they're really good. They finally perfected them. So even if they gave you that truck with that engine, that 10-year-old truck, you don't even want it. Because it'll be out of service all the time.
From experience. From experience.
Oh, yeah.
Good to know.
Any other questions or?
So just, as a reminder, the board has, over the last 2 years, has had this presentation, have discussed the fire engine, and the board has requested the fire department to postpone the question to the taxpayers, and that has been done now for 2 years. We've removed the fire truck question from the warrant for the past 2 years. And now I think it's important. I'll work with Doug and the chief on wording of the language, but I'm hearing that you and I understand the plan for a 5-year lease purchase, and then coming off that, entering into hopefully another 5-year lease purchase and try to get, refresh this fleet that's 20 plus years old.
And I did fail to mention that I know that the CIP called for 2 fire trucks. If the board supports this fire truck, we will not be asking for a second fire truck, other than unless something unfortunate was to happen to another one of the trucks in the fleet.
And that was going to be my point, is that we have 2 on there as a placeholder in accordance with the CIP. But right now the plan would be, if the board supports the 5-year lease purchase, we would go ask for 1 engine.
Correct.
It was 2020, we asked them to push it to 2021. 2021, we were afraid of lack of revenue, so it got pushed again to this year. We have our present day chief saying we need it. We have our 2 former chiefs saying we need it, and we have a committee here telling us we need it. So I think it truly is a need of the town. It's a huge dollar value, but Part of our job is public safety.
We also have a budget cap that we have to
Yep.
fit within. So if we spend $100,000 of $175,000 budget cap, nothing else gets through. And where do we make cuts? Do we cut people? Do we cut? I mean, what do we cut?
I know that's the big question we have before us.
Troy, can we justify using ARPA funds?
I had reached out, and I believe I've shared the email with with the Board of Selectmen, and had asked if we could use ARPA funds, and they can't tell you 100%, yes or no, but I believe the response was that they felt that it fit within the acceptable.
That would be,
Yeah.
That would be the whole ARPA fund, basically.
It'd be a big chunk, yeah,
Yeah.
because we've been allotted 900,000, and the truck would be
700.
somewhere around 720 or a little less, hopefully. But
It would be less than that, but no more than.
The one thing we do know that the opera funds can be used for is roads. Usually we do $200,000 in roads we go for. So, and we have how many years use opera before?
you'll need to have them totally expended by year 2026.
And there's a safety net we have right there, because we know that will be approved through the opera process.
And I've talked to a few people on the side, just trying to really think through this. This will be a big question for the taxpayers. It will generate a lot of discussion. It's not going to be a surprise to the taxpayers, the budget committee. Everyone's heard this discussion for the past 2 years. But I think, the question needs to be straightforward. A straightforward question, you as the taxpayer want to purchase a fire truck, lease purchase, because if we start trying to find other sources of money, trying to reduce this and do this, which I think is great, but I think people, then the discussion will start focusing not on the need for the truck, but on whatever the
Finding some
selectmen are
mechanism.
trying to do to sneak around the tax cap or whatever that. I get concerned about that for this issue. If it's a straightforward question, you, Litchfield taxpayer, want to support purchasing a new fire truck, and let that discussion focus on, do you want to purchase a fire truck or not? Because things can get off track because we're using this pot of money, we're doing this, we're trying to be sneaky. And I think it's important that this truck, if it's there as a question, that it has, the discussion is 100% focused on the need and cost.
And if it does go through, then it gets into the budget in 5 years when we need another one. The money's been there.
Well, I would be against having an automatic $750,000 expense in the budget. I would say if there's going to be a fire engine 5 years down the road, the people need to vote on that.
Of course, every single time they vote on it.
I'm sorry. So it wasn't automatic.
That's how it was explained to me by a former chief, that once you've got it before the voters and they've approved it, then 5 years down the road or whenever, when the lease is paid off, you already have that money in the budget. And that to me is circumventing the taxpayers.
Without a doubt.
So
Yeah.
we couldn't do that.
Well, as far as from the way I remember it, is the money is there to go to say to the taxpayer, which we had done. We would like to purchase another truck. We have a $80,000, $108,000 truck payment. We would like to buy another fire truck, and we've been told no before, so it's not an automatic thing. It's still voted on by the taxpayer.
Yeah. And that money for the payment should go back to the taxpayers.
Correct.
It should not just go into a general fund. The big discussion with that was the old Campbell bond. When that school was being proposed, the talk was that money will either go back to the taxpayers or go into renovations at GMS, and it's done neither. So that's $500,000 a year that went into somebody's coffer and didn't go back to the taxpayers, which is really, really irritating.
We hear that a lot.
So we can't have that on the town side.
Yeah, we don't want to be sneaky.
No.
Put your cards on the table. Let's see 'em.
Well, my only point, and we're not sneaky, but sometimes we try to use different funding sources, is not trying to be sneaky, but trying to help the taxpayer. And sometimes it appears
The perception is,
the perception's there, and I don't want that discussion. We should try to avoid that.
As Rich said, could you get some details, the specs and stuff like that to us?
Yep.
As a group here,
Some numbers so we can discuss it.
so we can talk more?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think the numbers are the biggest thing. I mean, the specs, we can leave you guys, the resident experts. I mean, the numbers.
Yeah, so you're just looking at what once we get the final pricing is what you're talking about. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All set?
Any other questions?
We wanted to find out, also, Richard mentioned about what you have in your fleet, the history in the fleet.
Yeah, so I do have all that information in here, but what I would want to do is go through
Put it
and, like
together.
you said, put it in a spreadsheet for you.
Okay, thank you.
But it has all been done.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks,
Welcome.
Doug.
Thanks, Doug.
Welcome.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks, Chief.
And we can still put it on a warrant, whether or not we support it or not. That's another question.
Well, we have to
but
support it to put it onto the warrant.
We do.
Yes. So next we have the Fire Command Vehicle Report. Mr. Brown.
They want
All
to pick
right,
up?
I wanted to place this item
All right.
on the agenda. You recall the selectmen previously approved funding, authorizing the police chief and fire chief to go out and purchase vehicles using existing funds in the 2021 budget. At that point in time, the discussion was all focused on a purchase of Tahoe vehicles. The fire chief went out, did his research, and he brought to my attention that due to cost, due to availability, due to some changes in the field, that they are now, instead of a Tahoe, looking at a pickup truck. And so I asked him to come in here this evening and give you a heads up. Like I said, this was previously approved, but we were talking Tahoe SUV type vehicle opposed to the pickup truck style. Wanted him to at least explain to you his research and his findings and why he wants to go forward with this purchase.
Welcome,
All
Chief.
right, thank you. So a couple key points. After the approval, Captain Scotty, Chief Sergeant, and I had numerous conversations with seeing who could find two Tahoes, the quickest and the cheapest and so forth. Short story, they're not out there. Captain Scotty was able to find two down in Mass. When we came before, or Troy brought the information before you, we were using 2021 state bid pricing. Like everything, 2022 prices skyrocketed. So in a nutshell, I requested $43,500 to replace the 2007 Tahoe. The 2002 state bid cost on a Chevy Tahoe is $44,400. So it's essentially $1,000 more than we even asked for. That coupled with the trend in the fire service to start getting gear and equipment that's contaminated in a fire out of passenger compartments. The deputy and I started looking at what a number of departments are doing is going, excuse me, to pickup trucks with caps and what they call a bed slide. So basically the whole bed slides out to make accessing all the equipment in the bed readily accessible and so forth. So you're not having to crawl in to get a piece of equipment. That gives you the separation. There's no contaminated or potentially contaminated equipment within the passenger compartment of the truck. So we looked at that, looked at pricing and availability on half-ton pickup trucks. Again, scarce commodity. But we were able to find one at McMulkin right here in Nashua at a 2022 cost of $35,892. We would then utilize the fund, basically the balance of the 43.5 I had requested to do the fit up that would be done for any vehicle, as well as add a cap, a utility cap, and bed slide into the back of that and transfer all the equipment over. So essentially, it's the same setup as we're running in the Tahoe now, but it's in a pickup body with the ability to slide stuff out, and actually makes it a little easier to get access to equipment than dropping the back seat cover down to get in, climb in, and get equipment out of the backside of the car. So we did look at some other options, and it really boils down to availability. McMulkin has penciled us in on a vehicle that they currently have on order. It is the state fish and game bid package, so it's very minimal. It has a trailer towing package, which is one of the things we would spec if we had the option to spec it, so that we can move our trailers around. It has that, and that's pretty much about what it has. It's what they call a work truck fleet special service vehicle, so the suspension is designed to carry the weight and so forth. So that's pretty much at this point what we're looking at. The only downside is, kind of like fire trucks, we don't know when they're going to be in. So they have them on order. They've been assured by General Motors that they're getting their allotment, and we were able to get one of the extras, the allotment they had. So now basically we're waiting on, well, we need to commit to it with a purchase order, but we're waiting on General Motors to give McMulkin what they call a build date to tell us when we might see that truck. So, questions?
What about the pickup truck you have now, Frank? Can that be retrofitted to do this?
It could be.
Truck.
It could be, but it's actually it's a heavier truck. It's a 250.
Yep.
So it sits higher. It's going to be a little bit.
Yeah. But wouldn't you need that to carry the weight and to tow?
Nope,
250
because
be-
everything that's in this Tahoe right now will basically, the Tahoe is a half-ton chassis.
Really?
Yeah, I was in my mind questioning half ton versus 3/4, you know.
No, we're within the. I actually think, thanks to the good folks at Continental, had the Tahoe weighed today, and it's right within the GVW of it's a little under the new pickup. It's at 6,500, and then the new pickup's rated at 7,100.
This is Chevrolet.
That's what McMulkin does. Yeah, we did look out to a vendor in Mass for Fords, and the Fords were coming in base price $2,000 more than the Chevy for McMulkin. And based on the experience I've had personally with McMulkin in previous communities, and our PD has had over the last several years with McMulkin, my recommendation is to go with McMulkin on the state bid. So.
The money's the same?
We're going to do it within the 43.5.
Now, this comes out of this year's
2021.
budget.
So we'll have
So
to,
we'll need-
we'll have to encumber it because we're not going to.
So what we'll need, from this point, we would go back, get something up in writing so that we can come back, approve a purchase
Yes,
order,
not for
and then you can encumber the funds because the vehicle is not going to be available to purchase before the end of the year.
Is it gas or diesel?
Gas.
Diesel's expensive.
Yeah, I'm comfortable.
If
We've already-
you're on-
Diesel's great in the right settings, but starting and stopping them isn't the best. For long haul, they're good. Cold starting them, they're not so good.
If you're on budget, I'm okay with it.
We had already allocated it, so.
Hope it's red.
I make a motion, we make provisions for the command vehicle.
Motion by Mr. LaSalle.
Second. Kim?
Second.
No, go ahead.
Second by Ms. Queenan.
Kimmy.
All those in
She doesn't
favor,
say
Mr.
much
Leary,
now, yeah. Aye.
Mr. LaSalle,
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
As long as it follows the budget and is a fire service truck.
we've established
Is that an aye?
Yeah.
Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thanks,
Thank you
Chief.
very much.
Appreciate it. Next, we have Recreation Field Maintenance Contract. Mr. Brown and Mr. Gannon. We have Chairman Gannon here this evening.
Come join you because I did see a lot of conversation going back and forth on the RFP, and figured I could maybe add a little color into it.
You're always welcome.
Research fall through.
I'll go ahead and just give us a quick overview, and then Chairman Gannon can add to it and proceed with the discussion. So as you know, our rec fields contract, unfortunately, really, in the last couple of years, we've just been to the point where we've been issuing one-year contracts. I think the goal was always to try to get a one-year contract and then eventually, find a contract that was meeting our needs and getting into a long-term agreement. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be the case this year with the current contractor. Wasn't able to bid. So we reached out to directly. We went directly out to 8 potential bidders. These were landscapers. They're well known in the area, came recommended to us. So 8 of those received the specifications. We only received one response back, and that was from Alliance Landscaping. That the bid specs itself has the fields, and then it has another addendum to it, which is more utility work around our fields. So the base bid came in at $72,996, and the additional work, which was a lot of bush hogging and some just maintenance in some of the utility type areas, that came in at $12,005 for a total cost of $85,001 for 2022. Just for your own reference, the contract currently in 2021 that expired is $53,000. So you're looking at a $32,000 increase here.
And that contract did not include the 10 little additional services, I believe.
I wasn't sure about that. The current contract that we had that expired, I think it included the Bryant landscape,
It did, John
boat
Bryant.
ranch, and the John Bryant. And all
So
that.
to expand on what Troy was saying, a couple of years ago, we decided instead of allotting a 3-year contract, because we had issues where we were stuck into that contract, but we were not satisfied with the service, we agreed that we would do a 1-year contract with a 2-year extension. So everything worked out well, we would bring them back in and we would just automatically give them the 2-year extension. So if something didn't work out well, we had an out. It also works the same way with the contractor. If they weren't happy with it, they also had an out. So we went to a 1-year with a 2-year extension. Every year doing it would be too much work. So we figured the 3-year, if we could lock somebody in, we're happy. Been very happy with Natticook Landscaping. The fields have looked fantastic. Everything's worked out really well. Unfortunately, I expected him to come back this year and request the 2-year extension, and he did not. So that was the first indication to us that he was not going to come back, or he was going to come back and go back through the bid process. The second thing we did was broke the contract into 2 options. The first option is truly our play fields, where we want somebody who's licensed to put fertilizer down, to licensed to work on irrigation, understands irrigation, and also can identify issues going on with the grass and remediate it immediately. And then the other option is the other recreation areas, John Bryan access, around the fencing, around the tennis courts at Sawmill Brook Park, and a lot of just regular maintenance of mowing and weed whacking. The idea was we had some contractors that we spoke to that said, I'm interested in option A, but I don't want to beat my equipment on option B. I don't want to deal with John Bryant River access. I don't want to work with that. It's very laborious. It's very intensive. It's a hard work. And then also we thought, well, this would give somebody who doesn't have the licenses, who's just coming into the business, a chance to get into doing some municipal property. So they can do, cut the grass and weed whacking. So when we did the RFP, we put that out there where they could have option A, option B, or a combination of both. Alliance accepted to do both for $85,000 $85,001. He also said he'd give us a 2% contract kickback if we accepted both. So the total price would be $83,300. We have 5 play fields. We actually have 7 parks in town. When you count Parker Park is not included. The representative from Alliance is actually a local gentleman in town, the manager. So he was familiar with all the parks. He knows exactly where they were. When I met with him, he said his kids were actually playing at Sawmill Brook during the weekend tournament. So it was comforting to know, even though they're an Auburn-based company, the manager is a local resident and he is familiar with our fields. He also said the fields look fantastic as well. Instead of doing the typical RFP process where you put it in a newspaper, nobody reads newspapers. So we did the direct solicitation of 8 companies. And as Troy said, we had one respond via email letting us know he wasn't interested, but he gave us some input on what we could do going forward. Alliance followed the process where we gave them 10 days. You had to submit a sealed RFP or sealed bid, and then we would open up the sealed bids in town hall in front of witnesses. I went down to open it, and there was only one. I did receive a unsolicited bid. I guess you could call it, was nothing more than an informal email saying that somebody's interested, and they were actually $5,000 more than Alliance. So when we started looking at this and started knowing that Natticook wasn't coming back to the table or wasn't giving us any signs they were coming back, we started trying to figure out what is this going to cost us. We kind of knew we were getting a really, really good deal on what they were doing, and the grounds look great. My vice chair, Andy Ruggles, sent out email or a link to the email that went around the other day, and he called out that just the prices of materials have gone up. Fertilizer increased 131% and went up 48% in the last 2 weeks. Fuel, diesel has drastically increased, and then labor challenges. The current contractor has issues with obtaining labor and then also retaining labor. So it sounds like everybody's in the same boat, and you hear it tonight, it's the same thing. Out of the 8 people, out of the 8 solicitations, we got 1 back. Alliance, I met with the gentleman. He understood the situation. He was in agreement, and they come in at $83,000. That is in a 46% increase. It was actually last year's contract, I thought was $57,000, and it was a 46% increase.
So Steve, last year when we got the low number from Natticook,
Yep.
do you remember what the other bid values were?
Yes, I think one was 62,
Yep.
and I want to say there was another one 72 from another vendor. So we kind of anticipated it going up.
Mhm.
I did not think it would go up this high. I thought it would be about 30%, but it did jump up drastically.
Material cost is going crazy right now.
Yes. So my numbers hurt in a different way. 46% increase is substantial, but in the all total number of things, it's not too bad.
What's Jason going to do? What's Jason's going to do?
He'll be next year's.
He mows everything.
Have the fields been closed now? The irrigation blown out?
Yeah, I believe they have. We will follow up on it, but I did see him out there blowing them out. One thing Natticook did do, I can't say enough good things about Natticook and Ryan Lane. He's been, we've been working well together. He's actually, my chairman's been his liaison, so he'd only had one person to deal with directly. And Ryan has gone through and he repaired pump issues. He cleaned all the heads down at actually, I think at all the fields. He pulled heads out and cleaned them all. He really made the fields look fantastic. They've been.
Does the irrigation water at Dare come out of the pond, or is it a well?
All the irrigation for the fields are a well. And I believe the irrigation heads around Talent themselves are from Pennachuck, but I'm not 100% sure. Nothing's coming directly out of, well, indirectly from the pond through a well, but nothing.
Yeah, there's a pipe that goes out into the pond.
It wasn't always that way.
Is there I thought we had
There's a feeder pipe that goes out there.
for the irrigation as well.
It sucks it from the pond.
I thought that was
I understand. There is, that's why the pump is there. It's drawing from the pond.
drawing from the pond.
It's down low. Okay.
So that's the way it is now?
Yes, the way it's been for years.
Yeah, we put it in probably
Oof.
30 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's still working?
Ben Herbst.
Still good and good.
So that's where we stand with the RFP. One bid. There's not much. I don't know what else to say.
Well, we got,
Food for thought.
no. Like everything else this year, costly.
I know, but our tax cap, again, I keep saying it, but
Yeah,
it's
here's
just
32 more at it.
Alliance does have
we're
a
so far out of the
very
water now.
great reputation. Their cover page. They have 6 people that are licensed to spread fertilizer and treatment. They have their own irrigation team, and they have 6 crews or 5 crews that maintain the properties. They cover most of the 55 plus condominium
They're all
developments
over.
in town.
They're
No,
all
they got a
over.
good reputation, no doubt.
Yeah, I know last year when we got one bid, we rejected it because that was actually in the papers. And then we went off and we direct solicited. This year we only got one and we did direct solicit right out of the gate. So, we did keep the same process as we did last year.
This has to have to be decided tonight.
We can't ink the contract until we accept the purchase order.
And the contract runs January 1st through the December 31st of each year. I don't know if we specified when the contract would be accepted. I assume by January.
Hope there's a lot of snow. Months you won't be using them.
Again, what's the alternative?
That's, we don't know.
I mean, one thing I think we can all agree on is the fields really look good.
Oh, they look fantastic.
They really, and I think part of it is nature that we had so much rain this summer. Because, I mean, the grass, nobody's grass looked brown this year,
And I think all the soil sampling he did and everything and the amendments he put in, he really got the fields to be extremely healthy. Then with the added water, they just took off to the point they were being mowed twice a week. I think in the contract, it's once a week.
Yes.
So he was actually even putting more time out there because it was growing so well.
And if we knew there was a tournament coming up, he'd run down, cut the grass, make sure. There's a picture of somebody's drone. Sawmill Park is almost 5 acres of just grass. And Ryan went down and striped them, and it looks awesome from the sky. It's a pretty picture.
Tax cap's gonna raise hell. I'm for it. I do know the cost of material has gone up. I did talk to two local farmers, who else in here, and they even said the same thing. Fertilizer is going crazy. Now this time of year they don't buy it as much, but they know it's gone up.
Is ARPA part of, you can do health things for ARPA, right? Would this be considered health if it's parks and recreation? I don't know.
Yeah, but this would not be covered through any of the ARPA fund. I mean, this is just,
It wouldn't be
it's
counted.
maintenance of
But-
facilities.
General maintenance, that's all it is.
I have a fellow budget committee member here. What do you think is going to happen?
Cringing over
Under the
there.
table? Yeah.
This was one item that the budget committee was made aware of. That was at the time they finished up our budget. They still were aware that this was an unfinished item.
You can feel Kerry's eyes burning
Yeah.
right now.
So as of right now, I think the last time I saw the number, we were about $61,000 below the tax cap, and this would eat up half of that.
Okay.
So what do you recommend here, Troy?
What do you got?
I think that we did an open and fair process. We all agreed that we would do a direct solicitation because the public ad in the paper was not an efficient way of spreading the word. Alliance, they did their homework. I think they put in a very good proposal. and they have a good solid background.
So we need a motion.
I would have a motion to accept, and then we'll put a purchase order on your next agenda under the consent order.
So move.
Motion by Mr. LaSalle's,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Lynch. Any further discussion?
Some other people are going to be very unhappy.
All those in favor, Mr. Leary,
A reluctant aye.
Mr. LaSalle's.
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
Aye.
Ms. Queenan.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 500.
There's nothing else you can do.
Should have went first. It wouldn't have hurt as much.
Jason, you got any more spare time?
Next, we have the ATV donation acceptance. Let's get with Mr. Gannon and Mr. Brown.
Did you bring it in?
So the Litchfield Baseball Association purchased a 2008 Suzuki four-wheel ATV. I'm told that this is the same style, make that of ATV that you currently have at another facility. So kind of like the same discussion that you heard from the deputy fire chief. This is going to be a real benefit for the rec folks because they're going to have a piece of equipment at two different locations that same make, same model. They'll know how to operate it. Litchfield Baseball Association found this. It was a direct private purchase, and they intentionally purchased it with the thought of donating to the rec department so that it would be used for maintaining our fields. I think you use it for dragging the infields.
Yep.
And probably some other utility type work. But officially, we need to have it accepted by the Board of Selectmen so that we can add it to our insurance policy and our asset inventory.
And the funds used for it were joint funds that baseball rec did together doing comedy shows.
Yeah, there was
So that's-
no tax money
Whatsoever.
utilized to purchase this
So to
equipment.
keep it clean, we thought since baseball and rec both did it, let's give it over to rec 100% and therefore be a town asset.
I move to accept the donation of the ATV.
Motion by Mr. LaSalle's,
Second.
second by Mr. Leary. All those in favor, Mr. Leary?
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's?
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Queenan? And I will abstain. Motion carries 401.
So Steve, now we have two.
Yep.
Yep.
We can have races.
Against yours? No.
Being that it's 8:35, I'd like to open it to public input. If there's any members of the public that would like to come forward, this is your time. Welcome.
So, we're gonna try to all together, plug in. So what we're doing, what we've been talking with the planning.
Come up and sit.
Come
Rick.
up and
Come up
sit.
and sit. Come on, man. You're amongst
Join
friends.
us.
Oh, we can hear you.
Kate, if you want to come up too, slide on up.
We got room for everybody. Troy.
Steve, you sure you want to come up?
John,
Matt, you want to come up?
Let Jason come up.
Oh, wake him up.
Oh, come up. Run back and forth.
Jay, take the side over here. You got a microphone and everything.
All right. There we go.
So I've been working with the planning board at the north end of town to come up with some different ideas on how to develop the north end because what we have in our regulations don't really work. So the planning board, we're talking about doing some development, mixed use development up there and whatnot that will be coming before the vote is, when that gets there. So in doing that, I got thinking about it that, if we're going to do that, we need to have a sidewalk. So, what I've talked to the planning board, and that's why Kate's here, because I believe she's in favor of the sidewalk too, and I think the planning board's in favor of putting the sidewalk in. So we go about 600 feet north of Temple Drive, so we get the piece just north of Temple Drive. Stay on the west side till you go past the proposed gas station, and then it would cross 3A right there at Craig Young's old house, right in that area, and then come down the east side of 3A all the way to Robin Ave. So from Craig Young's old house all the way down to Romano's, that pretty much on my property all the way. So I put it there. In doing that, I would pay for the section Moore's Falls, I'd build that for the town. I would do the crossing. I'd pay for the crossing and then build it down. Now, there's only one piece that I don't own to have under agreement. It's where the rubbish company is.
Okay.
Okay. So in all this, I spoke with the District 5, and District 5, I'm probably going to give them a copy of this plan, ask them if it was possible to build the sidewalk, and they felt what they told me was that the sidewalks could be built, but the selectmen would have to agree to maintain them. So down the road after they're built, you guys would have to agree to maintain them. Now, I'm sure we can do something with developers when they're in their area. They have to maintain them over time as they would. That might, if they're in the right of way, might be a challenge to do that. But they would get built. The maintenance, I mean, it's going to be like the walks on Albuquerque. Someday they're going to have to get repaved or fixed. But as we're coming down through, and I just think that it would be a good way for people to walk from Moore's Falls. If we're going to do a mixed use, if it does pass, it gets people that they can walk up to Moore's Falls. If the horse farm gets developed, those people have a sidewalk to come down to Moore's Falls, and it would tie it into Albuquerque. I picked Robin Avenue just because it gets the people out of that development, can come down Robin Avenue and use it if they want to. So it's really, the expense for the town is in the future maintenance. We would have to work out, so from Colby Road to Colby Road, we'd have to figure out how to get that paid from other developers as they came along. So it's going to be that type of thing. In the future, I mean, from Robin Ave south, I mean, as long as I'm breathing, it's not going to get developed, and I don't think my kids either. So if somebody wanted to at some point, if they want to continue it, that could happen all the way down to Pinecrest. I mean, maybe someday. It's there. It's available. So that's really what it would take is the board. If we're going to put it forward, the board has to agree that they would maintain it, or the state's going to make you sign the application to do that.
So Kate and Kim, what was the input from the planning board? What was their thoughts?
So the way that we're looking at putting this in is in the transportation chapter of the master plan, which we just recently updated. One of the things that we specifically said is we want to encourage more pedestrian traffic, and a way that a lot of towns do that is as areas are developed, it's the developer that's paying to put that sidewalk in, and so we're looking at putting a warrant article forward that would require sidewalks to be built in that northern commercial zone as it's developed. Each time a site plan were to come in, though, that way it's upfront as an expectation of the developer, and it's not looking like the planning board is trying to strong arm anything. And with each section of that, the Board of Selectmen would still have the chance to say, we don't want a sidewalk there. So so in this case, the developer that owns most of the land, though, is Mr. Charbonneau, and he has graciously come forward to offer to pay for even a crossing across 3A, which I know has always been a hurdle. And the planning board has been encouraging sidewalks and things. You see how often the bike path is used. It's practically a community center, like an outdoor community center. Every single day there's people walking up and down there. You run into teachers, your friends, at least in that kind of suburban side of town. And we just think that if we put it forward in a warrant article and the town supports it, that's how it can get built without having to go for grants and things like we put in for the Pinecrest sidewalk. And I know your next question is going to be, how much does it cost to maintain? So Heather pulled the past 4 years of plowing maintenance for the bike path, which is about 6 miles long. And 2018, it was $5,200. 2019, it was $7,300, but that was actually, we actually only spent about $3,300, but there's a minimum balance for the contract. So, and same with 2020 and 2021 were both the same at 8,500, and we still didn't use all the funds. We ended up paying the plow person the remainder. So we're already not spending all the maintenance that we had budgeted for it every year.
So the maintenance on the proposed sidewalk would be equivalent to the current bike path.
Well, this is only
This
two and a
is-
half miles.
No, I know, but I'm saying no, that's fine. It would be, most of the maintenance is plowing.
Mhm.
Now, would the use of this be the same as the bike path? I mean, bicycles and pedestrians and,
Yeah, I think it should be an 8 foot wide, the same as the bike path on Albuquerque. It should be 8 feet wide. So
For
that,
plowing reasons, it's wiser.
yeah, you want it to be that for maintenance, everything's easier. And in a lot of cases, it's going to be in the state right away. So like from Albuquerque going north, there's a curb in there. So that sidewalk fits with the poles. And then you get areas where there's a culvert. So you need to be in the right of way so that because of wetland issues, it's easier to get if you don't have to get a wetland permit, it's always easier. So, but you're going to need a permit because you're going to be in the setback from the wetlands, but that's just part of, so looking at it, the way I got it laid out, I think, would they have the least amount of impact on telephone poles and things like that.
I've always been amazed at the number of bicycles that are on 3A. I mean, and it's so narrow. Would this, if we had this sidewalk, do you think people would ride?
I don't think so.
Cyclists are going 20 plus miles an hour,
Yeah.
which is why they don't use the bike path.
I
right
don't
now.
I think you'd see a kid. I think you'd see young kids on the
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
on the path. But the guys that are 3 or
Racing.
4 guys going,
Yeah, the cyclists.
they're not going on there. They're moving out. There's too many obstacles on a sidewalk for them to ride on, and they don't want to encounter someone walking or someone coming with another bike or whatever. So cyclists aren't going to use it. No, I don't think cyclists use the bike path right now. If they're going down Albuquerque, they're on Albuquerque.
It's usually families riding together or just kids going.
Yeah, kids, joggers. I mean, that's what we're going to see. And I just think that if the mixed use does get approved up there, whether it will or not, I have no idea. I just think it's a good thing to let people walk to and that type of thing.
And how does this fit into the master plan of the planning board?
I have a handout here that I will upload to the site. I think I have 2 roles here. One is the planning board and one is the board of selectmen. Thank you. You've been honest coming in and, saying what kind of changes you want, and we're working with you to see how this can work. I did pass out just so they see it. And I don't mind passing on more. I think I might have one left, but Mr. Charbonneau came in to do a lot of potential changes in the northern part of town in the commercial and commercial industrial. So from a planning point of view, and I'm giving them a chance to come up to speed so they don't make this decision in a vacuum. The planning board's been busy. We interviewed 3 people who were in leadership at the time when the commercial zones were put in. You did it for the circumferential highway at the bottom and access up there. And the main thing was they didn't want a big development being plopped right in the middle of the residential. So that's the model we've been working with 25, 30 years. We went out and we looked, Kate helped, and we made this together to talk about what are your existing land use laws in every commercial district that we have, because we needed to see what do we do today. Because Mr. Charbonneau came in and had another vision of what we had. So we had to look at what we did. We looked at all the warrant articles that have passed since that model came up to date, how they implemented it, how they worded it to the town, how they put changes in, how they took things out, if you wanted to have certain housing developments in or something like that. So we looked at the wording in case a warrant article came up. How would we word it for the public. And we also wanted to see if there was a certain thing that kept saying no, no, no. So there's still some more analysis to be done here, but most of it is probably syntax that we're going to look at. Or if you wanted to completely redo a section, how would that be? Just for the note, you can't just redraw a district line because you'd have to, if that's commercial, you can't just all of a sudden say it's residential because you have to contact everybody that owns the property there and everything. It's just not drawing a line. So this is why we're taking our time with that. So that's what we did to look at the history of it. What we're currently doing is we did look at the capital improvement plan, which is this spreadsheet here, just to see if there was something about sidewalks or anything. I didn't see anything there, but in fairness, it doesn't belong there probably because it's more buildings and vehicles kind of thing. But at least we did the diligence there. Kate is correct. We're looking at our master plan chapters. We all took 2 or 3 chapters each to look at before we meet again. We're looking at it from, you are correct. There are things about bike paths and sidewalks. That is part of the master plan to get them in there. We're going to look at mixed use housing. And I just want to make sure we don't confuse types of homes, whether it's mobile homes, condexes, whatever, with actual mixed use about businesses and together. So we're just going to do that because master plan chapters go through a public hearing process, and that is how the public, votes, right? So that's really what we're currently doing. What our future looks like are those master plan chapters. As far as the sidewalk comes up, we had talked about maybe looking at impact fees, and we know there's a whole algorithm that Troy passed out that goes through. So it's probably not going to happen quickly. If that could defray costs, when people move in, they have a school impact fee, roads, whatever. So that's probably off the table if it's a short warrant article coming through. I'm not sure. I got how many miles you're thinking. It's 2 point something miles. I came up with 1.6, but I'm off. So
1.74
okay,
miles.
that's fine.
From end to end.
So I didn't know. And again, the question that the voters will ask, and I don't know, is do we need another highway department personnel? I don't know. I don't know what's involved with the highway. I don't know what kind of sidewalk it is, if it has a raised lip or is it like Albuquerque? I don't know. But the voters are going to know the cost. I don't know what the answer to that is, but that's what the board can discuss. We just say it's $10,000 a year, just to round up. In 10 years, that's $100,000. 20 years, $200,000. 3 years, $300,000. Again, does the taxpayer just needs to know? And maybe it's less. I don't know what it's going to cost.
We're spending less than we're contracted for.
Okay, I agree to that, but I don't know what kind of sidewalk it is. That's all I'm saying is that we just have to talk about that. The voters are going to probably ask about, do they see value in it? They're probably going to like the recreation value of it. They're going to probably like the safety value of it. I think the voters will probably say, are we paying for this for the industries moving in? But maybe they'll justify it with the cost is needed to get the services that these companies are going to bring in. So again, I'm just trying to play how they're going to be thinking. I did put a tax cap limit impact because I wasn't sure where we stood until tonight. I'm seeing some numbers starting to show up. I honestly think so far what I'm seeing, and I really have to deep dive into the master plans, I think it does chip away a little bit at the master plan on the rural agricultural field, but it is a commercial district. But I think it does follow the master plan as far as sidewalks and bike safety. So it's going to be one of those.
I was thinking about that. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. I'm trying to just go through my thoughts here. So really I think the voters really need time because we are working on that other warrant article of mixed use at the same time. I don't know if we had a discussion about this on the planning board, whether they're mutually exclusive or should they wait till the stakeholders or who lives in that part of town can talk. I'm just trying to keep the board where we are today. Is it it's separately separate warrant articles, but are they kind of related that this is a precursor to something else? We just need to be honest about that. The Route 3A crossing, I'm glad you're talking with the state about that. I don't know if that's fully safe or not. I haven't looked at that yet. I do in the future, though. It's just that 3A is getting so busy, whether it's a crosswalk there or not. Some point, somebody's gonna have to build a crosswalk on 3A at some point somewhere.
More than one.
Oh yeah, and the only one that I see successful in the area, not that I get out much, is that 102 where TD Bank and Dunkin' Donuts are. There's really a big light there. That really, not saying you can't get run over, but at least it gives you a better chance of getting across the road. I'm not saying that's what we need here, but I do in 10, 20 years see something like that having to happen on that road. So I'm just going to speak for me. We're still, as far as the planning board, looking at the mixed use and the sidewalk. I don't want to be rushed into a decision because of warrant articles, because I don't know if they're really, the sidewalk could actually open the door for more mixed use. I don't want to have these out of order. I want us to look at them individually, is what I'm getting at. We need to do our due diligence that came up earlier, and you can see we are, because if the planning board goes with this, we really have to get up at a town, meeting and say, we looked at this, we looked at this, we looked at this. And even if we have our current state where we are, we still want to be creative and let new things in, but at least we can say, we looked at things. I haven't had time to look this up, is the conditional use permit. And again, I'm not a lawyer, but I thought it had to be in sync with our master plan. And if that is going to happen with mixed use housing, say we do find that it can do that, I just want to make sure our master plan says that. If we think it's good for the town, we have to get the master plan in sync. I think they have to be in sync, and I believe you need a public hearing for that. So the decisions are going to radically affect this town. It's going to transform. If we did nothing, the town's going to transform. If we do something, it's going to transform, or can we kind of control it? So it's a big decision. We're running out of runway for time, and I don't want to rush this because the town is going to transform either way, and it's a big responsibility. So that's all I have to say about that. So we're here about sidewalks today, which is a piece of the Northern Commercial. I'm sure is going to help the town in some facet. So I just want you as a board to understand where we are as a planning board. And we haven't come up with anything recommended because we haven't voted on anything yet, because we're trying to absorb the information to see where we stand. Then come forward.
So I believe the crossing will have a light similar to where, if you see where the bike paths that are in Londonderry and all over the place, they have a lighted, like on 128 on Mammoth Road. It's going to have to be that type of crossing.
Yeah,
I believe, because of the speed limit.
Yeah.
So it's going to be that type of crossing. It's just not going to be a painted crosswalk.
Yeah, that's. I agree.
So it's more in depth than that.
Is it going to be our first stoplight in town?
No. Well, it'll be for that. They may have to lower the speed limit to 35 through there. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that's.
I don't either.
But whatever that is.
Yeah.
I just think that the sidewalk should be part of this to get people to get out and walk, to do things. I put it on my side of the road because I'm willing to build it as part of my development, and didn't even give that a thought, and we'll do it. So I think if it's gonna, it's up to the planning board, but I'm not sure it should be in the package so that whoever develops up there, whatever they do, they have to build the sidewalk. It's not, and come up with some mechanism so that the people that build on the west side have to contribute something to the sidewalk where we don't have, like from Colby Road to Colby Road. That's probably the biggest piece. Who's going to build that? It's all developed. So we need someone that's building across the street or whatever, they need to contribute to that somehow, some way, so that it can get built. So it doesn't cost the taxpayers money. I mean, I vision this as no different than, when we developed Sawmill, we built the tennis courts. Well, the town eventually took them over. Or we built any of these ball fields that we built in the past. We built them for the people, and now the town has to maintain it. So the sidewalk really kind of that same thing. If you guys believe in sidewalks, I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
As I look back at the 40 plus years that I've been in town, I think the vision of Ed Albuquerque for Albuquerque was one of the best things that have ever happened to Litchfield. The idea of having Albuquerque, and it was built in sections and so forth, with developers certainly doing that. But now when people come into town, whether they're going to Campbell or they're going to Darapond, wherever they're going, I mean, it really defines what a wonderful town Litchfield is. Now, that's fine for Albuquerque, but we have 3A, which is a glorified 18th century wagon road, which
You live on it.
a lot of people live on it. But what I'm saying is,
He drove on it back
we need
All of us.
we need to put some emphasis on 3A because everybody doesn't travel down Albuquerque. So I think that the vision that brought us Albuquerque, we need to apply that sort of brain power to revision 3A. And I think this is wonderful. But we know that there's pressure with the airport and all the development. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. So it's better that we put the framework in place that incorporates some of the same stuff we had on Albuquerque, but to 3A. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but again, it's the voters. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. What are they going to say? What's the cost? What's the benefit?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
The
So
thing is, when it was a wagon road, there were people walking on the side of the road.
Oh, yeah,
But you can't do that anymore.
I agree.
No,
I
it's dump
agree.
trucks.
But there's something, 3A is quaint, it's winds through the farms and everything. It's great. But it's narrow, it's limited, you're very limited. But I think
This is the start right here.
having pedestrian access to Moores Falls and is wonderful.
Baseball field up there.
For the kids, I'm sure that the convenience store, I'm sure they'll love it, because it opens.
We think of it this way, Rich, that entire north part of town is completely disconnected
Yeah.
from the entire rest of the community.
Yeah.
Moores Falls is arguably the number one passive recreational area that we have in the community.
Yeah.
You have St. Francis Church there and school.
Yeah.
My kids went to St. Francis School. They rode their bikes to school there. A little bit difficult getting across there.
Yeah.
I think what this provides is the opportunity to connect things together, connect the town together. If we ever get a sidewalk down Pinecrest out to the old town hall, old town center, you almost have an entire multimodal transportation setup that could just project into the future. And what I like about the proposal here is that you're thinking forward, because slowly but surely developers will come in, they'll develop one lot and they'll focus on their one lot.
Yeah.
Then 2 lots down, they're going to develop another lot and they're going to focus on that lot. But you're not looking at the big picture, and you miss the boat of kind of improving the entire area unless you think about that.
And that's the vision that was Albuquerque. That vision of bringing a north-south road with no houses on it, with a bike path. That was the vision of Albuquerque, and it's wonderful.
Just to go back in time a little bit. So, I built the good sections of Albuquerque as part of my development. So, but way back in time, when Albuquerque was first laid out, when it got to Pinecrest, it took a right-hand turn and went up over Rocky Hill. The town paid Du Bois and King. I'll never forget it because I went out of my mind. I was like, this is crazy. They put it up over Rocky Hill and they gave us a bill for $16,500. I'll never forget it. And I was on the planning board and I was just, this is crazy. Why are we paying these people for this? They just took and drew a map up over Rocky Hill. There's no way Albuquerque would ever got built if it stayed there. Never.
Never would have got built there.
And that was the trade-off with the state.
So then when we started Sawmill, we needed to get a right of way into Sawmill. And then we had, it always worked out, but we believed that Sawmill owned the middle of the state forest. Okay, the town thought they owned it, we thought we owned it, whatever. So we swapped the state for the right of way going through here for the middle of what was in the state forest. That's how Albuquerque ended up. And then we had to design it before the town would accept us going that way. We had to do the design in its current location, which we did, to prove that it would work there. They had a crappy plan from Du Bois and King that was going to put it up over Rocky Hill that wasn't going to work. And we proved that it would work in its current location.
It's flat.
So that's some history.
Until you
Yep.
run it. It's not flash.
You know, so that's how it worked. But we needed the access into Sawmill, and that's how we got the access.
So is the vision that that you're going to try to continue? We keep using the word sidewalk, but the look and feel of the Albuquerque bike path, is it going to have that look and feel?
It's not.
Or is it going to be more of a sidewalk that is really close to the edge of pavement? Is it?
It's going to be
when you go
close to the edge of pavement. It's going to be in the state right away more than that because we don't have it now. In some cases, it can go away. You know, as a developer gets them in their plans, we leave them that option. But there's going to be places where it's going to be close to the edge of the road.
Because that's the thing I wanted to flush out was that I think the community is going to want, if they support extending, I'll call it extending the bike path, they're going to want to try to maintain that look and feel of the Albuquerque bike path the best they can.
Yeah.
Because you're not developing virgin land where now we're not constrained with right of ways and private property owners. But like you said, the first section, if you were able to build it, it's a combination of state right of way and you're a private property owner. So you can kind of, you have the ability to move things around poles and wetlands and culverts. The new developers, like when we saw the horse stable, the planning board can actually try to make sure that we keep it more of a bike path because that developer is starting from scratch.
Correct.
They're not going to be, they don't need to be right up there at the edge of the road. Planning board can push them back and say, no, we want a good separation like we have in Albuquerque. And so, I think people at home need to understand that it'll be a mixed match of the Albuquerque bike path. And then portions of it will be close to 3A. But as we work with property owners and stuff, I can see it moving in and out.
As we get
Because that's
closer
a
to
great
3A,
view.
snow removal.
That's a beautiful thing of 3A is.
The biggest thing is the telephone poles.
Yeah.
You got to deal with the telephone poles. You got to make it fit within the telephone poles because the expense to move the telephone poles to put the sidewalk in for a driveway or whatever. So you got to look at all that when you're designing it. So where there's no telephone, it's like coming down when you get to Moore's Falls. There's the power lines get close to so you go around the power line or do you stay in front of it? It's just things like that you got to deal with. Where with Albuquerque, we had wilderness, and everything went underground. So it was different. And just, so those are the things we have to look at in designing it. If they decide to build it down by my house, they can go out in the field because there's plenty of room. It just depends where it is and how it fits in the development.
Yeah, you got hydrants in the way.
Hydrants are being-
Safety-wise, you do want a curb.
Yeah, if it's going to be up against the edge of pavement, there's going to have to be a curb.
I don't know if I heard you right at the planning board, but if the board here did not approve this, then every developer would have to come at them one at a time to get a sidewalk put in. Was that what it was?
They still will have
They
to.
still have
This
to.
is just a warrant article.
No, but this just blesses that we'll pay for it kind of thing.
No, you're not
No.
paying for it. You're going to
Not paying for it, maintenance,
We just
yes.
didn't want to the planning board didn't want to put a warrant article forward that would bring you these decisions
Mhm.
with every development.
That's what I'm saying. So it's a
Yeah,
one-time
it's kind
thing.
of like a catch-22 almost. You'll still see an acceptance, for the
And there may be
and
times
development.
where we want to put it on our own property because we don't want to deal with the DOT.
Mhm.
Then you don't need that, but you're still agreeing to maintain it at some point.
Now, did the planning board vote?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No. This is just something, when we just brought it up, I just got thinking about it and said, we really need a sidewalk out here in doing this. And then I contacted the DOT. They're the ones that said we had it would probably pass, but the selectmen would have to sign off on it and agree to.
I think it's a
maintain
great vision.
it. So,
I'm just curious, how do you deal with private driveways?
no, you just come down onto them. You just tie them in. So the only time that you need the cement is when you cross the street. So you don't need anything. You just tie into a driveway. Yep, slope it. Make sure you have to, can't be over 2% cross slope, and there's things that you have to maintain when you do it. But everywhere, so if we come down, that's why we come down the west side, we cross over, everything's gonna get ripped up on the left, from Craig Young's old house, if you guys know where that is,
Mhm.
the house I redid, all the way down to Colby Road.
Mountains.
So it's not like any driveway is gonna be affected.
Mhm.
If as that gets developed, those driveways are what there's gonna go away. They may not even have it. It might be one driveway for everything there,
Mhm.
or two driveways. Or I have a plan for a road coming in the back too, so they may get access that way.
There's been, Rick, if you've done some preliminary location work with surveys and stuff,
Like right there, see
Yeah.
where the curbing is?
Yeah.
So because the telephone pole, we either got to go behind the telephone
Yeah,
poles,
or in front of it.
or we stay on the
So-
right of way, put an 8-foot sidewalk up against the curbing.
yeah, I know what you're
You
saying.
know, it's really,
Move the poles.
it's making it fit.
Move the poles.
Bury 'em.
Just making that stuff fit.
It's not easy.
So it all fits with the telephone poles, because the telephone poles are on the edge of the right of way. But it fits because the curb's there, the drainage is there. It's kind of easy to put in, dig it up, and pave it, basically.
The only issue would be that section right there, because going north of there, you've got the horse farm where you have land, and Moore's Falls where you have land. You have the potential gas station where you might have a little bit of land. It's on the other side, it's coming down this way.
But even that, I own all those houses.
That's
Would
true.
you think about where the school is? Would you also want to put a crosswalk there? Because now you have the potential of people being on the right side, kids trying to cross 3A to go to the school on the left side.
And it may make sense to move it down to there. I don't care where we move it to. It doesn't matter. I mean, we got to make a crossing. So if we move it to whatever the name of
St. Francis Way.
St. Francis, yeah.
if we move it down to there, that's what we move it to. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, a crossing's a crossing. It's just where do we put the sidewalk, that's all.
I think 1 or 2 crossings will also help slow the traffic down and make 3A less intriguing to people and maybe push them back.
We're not gonna we can't do 2 crossings there. That's like 100 and something
Yeah.
crossing,
6 figures.
just across the road. So with the lights and what it takes, so.
Really?
Yeah.
It's not cheap.
So it's not gonna be 2. If and it makes sense to go to St. Francis Way, it's just, how do we get to those? We gotta there's people there that live there, and are they gonna wanna give it up
Mhm.
to do it, or do they want it in front of their house? The other side of the street, we have it. So
You just got that one parcel that folks owns, if I recall.
yeah, but we can fit that in the
Yeah.
right of way, in the
Yeah.
state right of way, at Foches.
Yeah.
And I'm sure those people would be,
They're accommodating.
They're gonna accommodate. It's not like a single family house. The guy runs a business out of it.
He rents out the house.
Where do you want the light to be, if there's going to be a light?
It would Well, it depends how the gas station laid out, but somewhere so that fit in with the gas station's driveway, so it doesn't interfere with their driveway if they build that there.
Mhm.
And
It'd be in a straight section too.
there's a culvert right there before the workshop. There's a repair shop. So
Yeah.
somewhere's in that area where we can cross easily.
Because kids are going to want to get a candy bar at the grocery store. So that's a good spot. Well, they are, right?
Yeah,
They're going to
they'll
drive their
drive
bike
the
to go
gas
get a Hershey
station,
bar
go
or whatever.
there, it's gonna
So
be-
that's good.
Yeah,
Or
if it goes
Albuquerque's
there.
good too, but yeah.
If they build it, but they have some issues to work through. If they don't, then there could be one down at the corner of Albuquerque.
Yeah.
So we're just kind of looking at, I've never found anything that I wanted to put out there yet, but this may get it going. And if we do that, and I don't know if you saw the plan, but we actually take, if this does pass and we do mixed use, we eliminate the trucks coming out Albuquerque, and they're actually, I can show you, come around.
Warren's junkyard.
Tobacco
So
Warrens, right?
this would, we're gonna bring the trucks around this way
Mhm.
and come out here.
Okay.
So this would eliminate the trucks around here, my trucks.
Bring it back by your maintenance and out.
It would come out this way, yeah.
Yep.
Eventually. So that when this all gets developed, once Warren's gone,
Mhm.
it's gonna get developed. And
So they'll come out up by the power lines up there. Craig Young's old place.
Yep.
They're gonna come out right by the shop.
Yep.
That's the
Right by
shop,
Craig's
so
little shop.
someplace
Yep.
right here, I guess.
It's wide enough in there, the way it was just cleaned up.
Mhm.
You get in the
Oh, yeah.
street.
It's good sight distance.
Yeah, it's
And,
beautiful.
you know, because if we're gonna put housing out there and, shops and stuff, we don't need all the trucks. The trucks can go to north, stay more in because where the driving range is, that's actually industrial. So they would go through that and come out by the shop, which we're gonna have more of that type of business up there. Warren should be gone in about 3 years completely.
Yeah, you're supposed to go
There's a
across.
lot of cleanup up there.
Well, where the driving range was,
Oh, don't
there
go there.
was probably 1,500 cars out there when I bought that from him. And then I built the berm so you wouldn't see when you drove down Albuquerque. So I built the berm because I didn't want to look at the junkyard. And
He's working hard for a guy his age. He's getting a lot done out there.
oh, he is. I'm not. Don't you guys working?
It's got a magnet going.
I keep telling him, Warren, it's junk. Throw it away. But it's good.
It's good junk.
He told me that was his 401k.
It is.
Every time he says it's good, I think of my father because my father was the same way.
Don't throw nothing out.
Don't throw nothing out.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to understand, we have been conversation about warrant articles, but what warrant articles potentially are we talking about?
The planning board, Jay is drafting a warrant article that we may or may not vote to put forward because this year. And it'll be a single warrant article just to require sidewalks to be a part of a site plan in the northern commercial district.
Okay.
That's all we're at right now.
Yep.
I would like
And
to
now-
see that maybe it's in every commercial district. I'm not sure, but at this point it's just the northern.
And that's separate from the conversation, Rick, that you're having about.
Yeah.
that
Well,
Other
the-
changes.
you might be willing to, sounds like, construct a sidewalk.
I will. As I develop that, I will construct it. But again, if the horse
Okay.
farm comes, if the horse
It's not
farm
like,
comes,
yeah.
okay, if the horse farm comes, they build their section. If
And connect
a
them.
strong arm will build it, if we don't have it yet.
Off-site.
He's getting me with that. Got a lot of mileage out of that one.
I'll build a piece up to Moore's Falls for the town, and then as we go, I'll get the crossing done, and we'll design it and get it built.
But the first step, you're not looking at building a sidewalk next spring. right?
No.
This
is
is this warrant article
Plan,
about
the planning
the
stage.
zoning.
just planning to
Okay.
get it moving forward. So as we go,
And so other developers.
I didn't know if you were sitting here, the planning board's going to have, this zoning question. You as a private business potentially building sections of sidewalk that ties into their plan and looking for the Board of Selectmen to accept the sidewalk, as a gift or allowing it, because the town would have to accept the sidewalk.
You have to accept it and have to
Yeah.
agree with the state that you're gonna maintain it.
But that's further down the road. It's more of a
yeah, I mean-
concept. It's the first step really is more planning
Well, if the
board.
horse farm comes, they're gonna
Yeah.
be coming with a plan that it's gonna be, could be, we need to beat them to the punch,
Yeah.
basically, and then we get another and that's how we can do it. No different if, Mel's comes in with a plan to build something else on the other side of that side of the road, they need to build the sidewalk.
There's-
So everybody that comes forward, I'll be coming forward with something and I'm gonna build sidewalk.
The site plan regulations already require that they account for pedestrian traffic, but obviously the planning board has not held anybody to that. So this, or very often, so
Well-
this lays it out clearly, expect to build a sidewalk if you're building in this area.
Yeah, if it's a development, but when you've got an existing state road, that's a different when you say you're going to propose for pedestrian, it falls into a different track because they don't really care, the state, as much. As you want it, you can do it. We're not fixing it. That's what Rick's fine. It's explained to us.
Right.
That's how the whole process works. I know what you're saying, but Route 3A part, anything longer it can work like that. You got to get an easement agreement, write it up.
Well, I certainly support the concept.
The concept's good.
Kim, it sounds like you really did your homework on this.
Still digging a little more. We're getting there. Again, we are open to new ideas, but we just want to see what do we have right now.
Does the planning board support this? I mean,
They're still
We
working
haven't had
through it
a
right now.
discussion on it
We
yet.
haven't officially voted, so I don't want to
No.
speak for the board.
It's still
So I,
being
mean, I,
drafted.
think, I think we wait until the planning board figures out. They want it.
I
to,
agree.
But I think I like the concept.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's great.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing is we don't expect anything right
Yeah.
tonight. It's that you guys understand it and you're on board so that when we bring it to the board, they know that the selectmen are behind it.
So the mixed use is something separate. That'll be a separate article
Okay.
when that comes.
That's a whole
So
different.
now you're all up to speed and
For
what we're
mixed
going.
use, you got to
That's a
define
whole
it.
different-
You got
whole
to,
different
everyone's
thing.
up to speed. I'm just giving them updates at the end of the meeting saying,
That's how I
we're
would
working
see
on
it.
our land use laws. I left it very vague.
Yeah.
Now they're all up to speed.
Yeah, but we're working on something. We're gonna do something at some point. Because really what it comes down to, what's permitted right now is brick and mortar and just, it's, brick and mortar's dead.
Mhm.
Not that you can't, with things that are happening, that the new thing is a mixed use, and that's what, all the towns seem to be doing, and trying to get that going and get some brick and mortar going and get things in there.
Almost everything going up now is either mixed use or lab space.
And to be clear, mixed use, we're not talking like Bedford mixed use, the big
No.
complex, or even the market basket.
Commercial downstairs,
apartments.
residential
It's
upstairs,
like
barber shop, gym,
Yeah.
hair
even
salon.
smaller than that, probably.
Yeah.
We're,
Yeah.
What was the term?
Probably the
Village-
biggest,
village district?
biggest unit is 20,000 square feet.
Or- Yes,
building.
that's what I think we're talking about right now.
Oh yeah, that might be another article coming, the warehouse, right? We don't know yet. Warrant article on warehouse sizes. We're not sure on that one yet.
I think
We're having discussions on that one.
But that's how this whole thing started.
It started with warehouses and ended up
You
with
don't want
sidewalks.
Amazon? You don't want an Amazon?
The biggest thing, the biggest problem is without sewer, we're not going to get much.
Yep.
That's really what it comes down to. If we had sewer, the different.
Whole
ballgame.
different process.
Sewer,
You had sewer, be a different ballgame.
I got a 65,000 square foot building approved out there, but there's no takers because there's no sewer.
Mhm.
And that elapsed a long time ago, but
Mhm.
and the mini warehousing out there, I got that approved, but I don't like the looks of them, so I'm not going to build it out there.
Concur.
Dana did a great job. It looks good. I just,
We've got so many of them.
I don't like them. And that's me personally. What he did looks great. Don't get me wrong, but I just have a different vision for that up in there.
Do you expect it coming at some point? Sewage coming that would rip up the sidewalks that get put in? Is that like a 30-year? Huh? Sewage, yeah. Do we ever expect that coming to Litchfield? I
At the
never
government-
had conversations on it,
I
huh?
would know.
The government would have
Company is
to
the
put
city
it.
of Manchester's wastewater consultant.
Yes, I mean, you guys,
would need-
you are the
you would need
man.
a pump station down here on this end. You would need an intermunicipal agreement. You'd have to run a force main line that would tie in to, I believe, the southern terminus of the Manchester sewer is just over the Litchfield line. You know where that landing court is, or
Yep.
Rivers Landing? There's like
Yeah.
a little kind of condo-ish development
I guess
on the
sewer there.
left-hand side. It's like 9/10 of a mile from Albuquerque, I think, but
Yep.
it'd be a big cost. It's not cheap to put in a wastewater pump station. And then you'd have to put the whole gravity system in where you are to go to the pump station and then pump it up.
So it's not coming.
Gotta do it both ways.
It's not coming for a while.
Well,
Major
So it rips up a
infrastructure.
sidewalk, right?
We usually do it in the south end of town because the Merrimack wastewater treatment plant is like near Wilson Farm.
Yeah.
Oh, easily. You have to go across the river.
Yeah.
A siphon over there or something.
Yeah, siphon or something. But, you know, way back, I think I donated like 150,000 to study that. They never went anywhere. You know, I gave it to
We
the
have the
town.
report, though. I remember.
I gave him money, but
That's an expensive report.
but it just
You
I'll
gave it,
share that report around, but there was a report that was conducted, and it talked about the opportunities with the city of Manchester, and then the in the city of the town of Merrimack.
it's
we don't
just
have
gonna
one
be,
of those, huh?
it's just the expense to do it.
Yeah.
You know, millions of dollars it would take if you could
I
get
would think
grants, if
so.
you could get stuff, but it's
I'd be interested in seeing that, Troy. If you
I'll dig it out. Yeah.
You don't look at enough of them?
get into that side too much.
No.
Know the people in Manchester well.
okay. So I guess at this point, the board will come back to
We
you.
like the idea.
Yep, you'll see the warrant article.
We appreciate all the efforts, all the work you guys put into it.
That's your
I just
bedtime,
made a
Rick.
graphic. I said, I'll
Looks
volunteer
pretty.
to make a
Bedtime.
graphic.
Yeah.
You stopped mowing lawns, so I'm worried about you.
I need to retire. But I just a little bit more money.
3 o'clock in the morning is going to come early.
You want to do lawn maintenance for the fields?
Thank you, Rick.
Great retirement gig.
One other
Thank you.
thing.
The Jason Brennan
Sorry,
maintenance
it's late,
contract
Kate.
price is good.
Good night, Kate. Take care.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you.
It's the material.
See you next
the
Thursday.
Cost of equipment.
So
See you tomorrow night, Steve.
on Firefly, on that subdivision right up here. So there's on 3A, there's an 11-acre lot that we gave the town an easement to, and we needed to get that easement fixed because basically we wanted to be able to farm whatever land that was there that could still be farmed. And the way it got recorded didn't allow us to farm what could always be farmed. And so that we went to the Conservation Commission and we went to the Planning Board and they approved that. And then we have a document that Morgan has given you, you have it, right?
So Morgan is Mr. Noseworthy's legal counsel that drafted up this amendment to the conservation, what do they call it? Covenant
Covenant.
restrictions.
Yeah.
So that has been shared with our legal counsel.
Mhm.
She is absolutely fine with it. And I have a copy of it in this green folder, which would require the selectmen to all sign off on, and then it would be recorded. Again, it's been really Jay Minkara from the planning board. He's the one that's been working with a lot of respect to Morgan and Morgan Hollis. So it's all been reviewed. Laura has no issues with it. It's been approved by planning board and conservation. So it's
Matt-
an amendment.
Matt,
to
you
the
approve
system.
that? Okay.
Conservation planning and legal counsel's good with it.
Okay.
I see no issue
No
whatsoever.
problem at all.
Okay.
You can
so
sign it
we
off
can
and-
do that.
And so it's in there, and
Yep,
it's
sorry.
a little strange because usually it has one place where all of you sign.
There's 5 copies of
It's
it.
got its own page, signature page for each selectman.
So if we can get that done, then we can record it and.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah, perfect.
okay,
We'll take care of it tonight.
okay,
That's it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for staying late.
Now you can go to bed.
Go to bed.
Gonna sleep fast now.
Actually, gotta go
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
to work.
Oh, you break something? Mr. Chavino will be on the road before the crow flies tomorrow.
The geese are still in his yard when he gets up.
Yep. Oh, yeah, they are. Yeah. They're liking that wet field.
I appreciate you guys standing up to the Pennachuck attorney because I am a Pennachuck user and
We're sorry for that.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It is. Unfortunately, I'm a little behind at times, but it sounds like it's gonna happen regardless.
I'm sick about it. I really am.
It's funny because I grew up in Litchfield, but me and my wife, we had to move to Merrimack for school reasons and so on. We came back here and we had Merrimack town water and it wasn't that big of a deal. It was like, I don't know, $70 a month or something during the summer. It really wasn't a big deal. But when we moved back to my mother's house, moving back to do this subdivision, we got a real taste of the Pennachuck outlook. So I just got done. So we were putting a well in so that we could irrigate, so that we wouldn't be on their behalf. So we could irrigate whenever we wanted to. So I had a wash well company come in June. He pounded 65 feet and hit rock, and there was no water there. So I got a drilling rig. I've been waiting 5 months. I had Skillings come. They just came and dug and drilled 700 feet.
Gee.
And I got 2 gallons of water.
Oh,
I'm like,
you glad you're on Pennachuck now?
no, I'm not. I'm not.
No.
I'm going to try and.
Where is this? I'm sorry.
Right at the
Right
very
across the
end
pink
of
house.
Firefly, at the cul-de-sac. And I put it right at the very corner, right at my lot. And I had
700.
We started off as 300 and there was nothing. So we kept going, but I stopped today. We're gonna maybe try to frack it or try to wake it up or something, because now I'm all to try and beat Pennachuck's water.
Now, if Winky was still around, he'd go out there with his dowsing rod
Oh,
and he
you know
would
what?
find you all the water you needed.
Winky showed me as a kid how to use that, but as time went on, I kept doing some research.
Yep.
There's no scientific study that works at all. But when I was,
And
when
that's
I
why
was
it works.
12,
I know a guy in town that just did it for a point well.
But when
More water than he needs.
I was 10 and 12, going with that apple tree branch, it worked every time. But
We're using welding rods too. They seem to work just as good.
I don't know the welding rod one. But
Well, it's
I
all
don't know,
right.
I just kind of gotta.
Should have listened to Wink better.
I was. We used to just yell at me to get to work.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I know that, Billy.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good
Take
evening.
care. Thank you.
Well, since there's nobody else in the room, I will close public input.
That was a lot of public input.
It was. And we can move on to the next agenda item, which is the asset management grant. Mr. Brown.
So it's the first time you're hearing about this, but earlier this year, I had put a submitted a pre-application to the Department of Environmental Services because I was aware of a program they had that would provide funding to help towns do exactly what this grant is, to start to track your assets. In this case, this one is specific towards our MS4 or the stormwater infrastructure that we have. So the maximum amount that can be received is $30,000. It's really seed money that would allow us to get a consultant on board and start to identify what work we need to do to map out all of the stormwater infrastructure and eventually lead into doing an assessment of its condition and and looking at some types of software that we can use out in the field to conduct investigations, stuff like that. So just bringing it to attention, I'll need to learn more about the grant requirements. I'm going to assume we're going to have a public hearing to accept the grant funds and then proceed from there on selecting a engineering firm to assist the town. It'll be, again, $30,000 doesn't really deliver much. but it will hopefully be a start. And then thought is it can, once you start developing a program, hopefully there's going to be a lot of money available in the upcoming years. And stormwater management, ARPA funding has provisions, and it will be seed money, hopefully, to leverage additional grant funds.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have the 2022, one more, transfer station holiday hours.
So Dave Mellon, the director down at the transfer facility, came and started talking to me about the upcoming Christmas holiday season. And we, and he was talking about his staff and what the demand is from our residents. So we've come up with what we think would be sort of a good compromise of allowing our staff to have the holiday season, but also for the residents to be able to have access to the facility. So on Christmas Eve, we currently right now we are open, scheduled to be open from noon to 7 p.m. So I just don't see a lot of people coming into our facility on Christmas Eve at 7 o'clock. So what we're proposing is that on Christmas Eve, we're open from 8 a.m. to 4, and we accept everything. C&D, brush, leaves, everything. The whole facility's open. Obviously, Christmas Day, we're going to be closed, and the day after, we're closed. On Monday, we would open up special, this would be new special hours just coming off the Christmas break. From 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., it would only be the upper area, just the trash and recycling. We're not opening up the lower area. So again, this gives the staff Saturday, Sunday. Obviously, they're going to get Saturday off, but it gets them off Sunday, and gets them out of there a little bit early on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, and it helps the residents by being open on Monday to come and get rid of all the stuff they collected over the weekend.
Otherwise, they'd be waiting until Wednesday.
Now, how does this affect New Year's?
Dave he didn't, whatever the hours are for New Year's, I don't think he.
The first is on Saturday.
It's on a Saturday, New Year's Day. Yeah.
And New Year's Eve is Friday. So we would revert back to our regular schedule, except for these 4 days. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, I can go back and talk to him about if
Well, let's just do
sees
this.
anything that needs to change for New Year's and replicate the same schedule. We might.
I would say that would be the smart thing to do.
I think so too. Do the Friday 8 to 4 for our New Year's Eve. New Year's Day, you give it off Sunday, then Monday open up again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Almost just duplicate the same thing.
Yeah.
There is a lot of trash, with
Well, that's
Christmas presents and so forth.
Dave said the residents, after any holiday, they are lined up at the gate the first available day because,
I am
Christmas-
one of them.
Yeah.
Get it
Christmas,
all out.
New Year's, they want to get rid of that trash.
I said the same.
Something like yours.
So I'll go back. If you're all good with that, I'll go back and talk to Dave, make sure there's no issues with the New Year's. I don't think there will be. And we'll get word out.
I move to approve the Christmas holiday hours.
Motion by Mr. LaSalle's,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Lynch. All those in favor, Mr. Larry,
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's,
Aye.
Mr. Lynch,
Aye.
Ms. Queenan.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0-0.
Most of these
Please
people-
talk to them about doing the same thing for New Year's.
Oh, yeah.
please.
Thank you.
Most folks have burning permits in their backyards.
Next, we have the 2022 draft warrant
Take that
articles.
way.
Mr. Brown.
So I'm not so sure if at 9:30 at night we want to get into these.
I was almost going to say, let's,
But what I will tell you is that keep out of trouble with the budget committee. Our next selectmen's meeting is going to be December the 13th. The budget committee is scheduled to review warrant articles on December the 16th. We'll present them on December the 16th. And then they vote January 6th. So
Special meeting?
we can either have a special meeting or
I
You
think
know,
we keep the agenda light on the 13th, except for warrant articles.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of warrant articles there that they're just, I listed them there because they're in the CIP. I think that realistically, there is absolutely no way the selectmen are going to be able to entertain those.
You listed them here?
And I just wanted to point out to you that there is 2 new articles that I've placed on the draft warrant. One, as a heads up, Chief Sergeant will be here on the 13th to explain it to you, but they have taken a look at their operation with the resignation of the police officer, Michael Coro, who is he was assigned as a part-time SRO officer, and we have Mr. Donnelly, who's a SRO. They're looking internally at their budget where they believe, and you'll see the warrant article, that they want to ask permission from the voters to establish a full-time SRO officer. And if you take a look at the financing of it, because of the existing budget, there's not a huge cost to go ahead and make that commitment. In the first year, which is the question that would be this year in 2022, there would be no cost whatsoever. We'd be able to do it all internally with the budget. And then the second year would be in 2023 when you absorb some of that benefit cost. But the chief will be here to talk to you about that on the 13th. It really, it's a really good proposal, utilizing existing budgets and trying to meet the demands of what he's hearing from the school and citizens about having resources in our schools. And just so you know, there is a warrant article that was passed several years ago that created a full-time SRO officer. So there is on record that we have one full-time SRO officer funded. But for whatever reason, even though the authority's there, we only have 2 part-timers at this point.
Which makes a full-time.
So this other warrant article we're talking about would create a second full-time position, but it's not proposed to be funded. We would ultimately end up with 1.5 SRO officers, but have the ability one day to go to 2.
Because I know there's been talk about trying to bring the DARE program back also.
Well, that ties into this.
Yeah.
Trying to bring the DARE program back. So take a look at those warrant articles, get familiar with them, and we really need to get serious about them on the 13th.
Keep it light on the 13th if we
Okay.
can. I know we have Chief Sergeant coming, but I don't know what else we have pressing for the 13th.
Well, we had our fire, discussion here. I can tell you the parking lot at Dara, I met with the rec commission. We're holding off on that, so that's been removed. So
Drainage.
it really comes down to a lot of it was that the equipment at the highway garage.
Good. All right, town administrator report, Mr. Brown.
All right, a couple things here. One of the things that I'm taking is a certified, it's called a CPM, seeking my certification through this. It's all done through the state. I had done the level 1, and now I'm working on level 2. The program was sort of put on hold last year due to COVID. It started up again this year in hopes that we would be able to interact face to face, but it ends up being that we're all remote. So the end sometime in June, if I'm able to achieve all the different levels, I would be certified as a certified public administrator. So along with many other state officials and town and city officials. But part of this certification program is that I need to sort of have a capstone project that needs to be endorsed by a group individual. And the project that I've discussed with my professor is a program that would be internal here in the town of Litchfield, and it could be used by other towns. That's the way it's supposed to be designed, where we would, I'd have a program for recruiting and onboarding and training volunteers. Because I just kind of see a need of really reaching out to our community and doing that recruitment to fill our volunteer boards and committees. And, we do our job here, we appoint them, but then they're sort of left on their own and they have to kind of learn their own training as they go. And I'd like, this program would actually have this onboarding training component.
Good.
Introducing them to the right to know law, a little background on the laws that we work with every day, and hopefully we have ongoing training on an annual basis. So I need to have a sponsor. I'd like to have the Board of Selectmen be my sponsor for this, and I will be working with you throughout the year, bringing this back. It needs to be reviewed by you and approved every step of the way.
Okay.
Is this me?
I think we can do that for you.
Okay.
I got this today, yeah.
I also wanted to, I know the board's been copied on some emails exchanges
He may have
between
them.
the state forest and the town. I had reached out to them last week, informing them that I was not happy about the mud and dirt and silt that's being tracked off the state forest property and onto Albuquerque. That's a very busy intersection. It's a town road, and that's not something that happens in the town of Litchfield. We've had a lot of subdivisions built in this town. We've had some commercial things up on the north end of town, and we've never had this kind of activity. They always have constructed a temporary
riprap.
construction entrance and maintained a clean highway. So,
Did they respond to you?
well, they did, and there was people on vacation, out of the office. So I was a little disappointed when today I received more input from citizens and department heads on the condition, and the condition seems to be worse. It doesn't seem to be any attempt to mitigate the problem. So I sent an email today, copied the board, and it was pretty forceful. Said, look, we're seriously going to be looking at, we're going to take away your curb cut. I mean, it's going to be a cease and desist if you don't come up with a plan on how you're going to prevent this. And so we'll see what kind of feedback we get tomorrow.
Thank you.
I spoke with him on Friday, and I think he said he was going to work with the company that's doing the harvest, because he said that it's kind of difficult to plan on when those trucks come, because they're coming from Connecticut or southern New England, and sometimes they'll send up like 6 trucks at a time. So all those trucks go in, and then they come out, and all of a sudden they track all that stuff out. So it might be a little difficult for them to clean it up, but that was from what I got from the conversation I had with Scott.
If they could put stone or something there that would catch most of the mud before they hit the road.
Most construction sites, have riprap
Yeah,
that does that.
riprap, yep. Because I drove by there the other day, and you're right, Troy, it was a mess.
Yeah,
So much rain.
I'm not overreacting. The citizens that have complained to me are not overreacting. It's, I understand construction and everything, but this is and my concern is doesn't seem to be just total disregard. There's no attempt to stop it, to mitigate it. No one's even trying to clean it up. So luckily we've had a couple of rain events that have kept it down, but
No.
so anyhow, I'm going to continue to be pretty aggressive on this. And my position is, and you need to stop removing material from the state forest until you've come up with a plan. So
Good PR. Okay, we'll be all set.
yeah,
What it is, just like that, I think mitigation or anything on a construction site, you're not allowed to bring the mud out into the street. Or if you do, you clean it up each day.
the
Okay.
street sweeper at the
What's
end of the
happening
day.
here is nothing. They're letting the rain do it, and it's running so much, you got troughs coming out of the forest because of the thaw track. There's no erosion control. That's it.
And just a reminder, this week is Thanksgiving week. It's unbelievable.
It is.
It is.
And we will be closing Thanksgiving Day and the day after.
Oh,
Wish everyone a very happy and safe Thanksgiving holiday.
yep, staying home.
Perfect. Selectmen's report, Ms. Queen.
Did I miss the flagpoles at the cemetery? Was that a quick?
I did.
Okay.
Flagpole. So it looks like we have some emails, correspondence with the Litchfield Veterans Group, the cemetery trustees. So Tuesday, November the 30th at noon, right here in this conference room. Whoever's available. I know I saw a couple of selectmen that think they might be able to attend. And so the purpose of the meeting is for the veterans, the cemetery trustees. We have some selectmen representation to talk about installing flagpoles at the Pinecrest and Hillcrest cemeteries.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Queen.
Well, we saw what was going on at the planning board just now. Land use laws and permitted uses in those different districts. Primarily, we're focusing on the northern commercial and northern commercial industrial. We've been speaking about the sidewalk that came up at the last meeting. It might have been hinted at the meeting before. So sidewalks is also being discussed in that northern part, as you saw by the presentation. What started this whole thing off was warehouse size limits for all commercial districts, but I don't know if we're going to go forward with that. We're still working on wording on that. Then the next planning board meeting will be December 7th at 7 p.m. here at the town hall. And let's see, December 15th will be NRPC's, that'll be the National Regional Planning Commission's meeting at 7 p.m. And that's the full commissioner meeting. And that will be at 30 Temple Street in Nashua, New Hampshire. And that's all I have.
Thank you. From my side, emergency management team, we're not in session right now. And hopefully the numbers don't keep increasing. So we do go back into session.
Inflation keeps going. We might have to have an emergency management about inflation.
Inflation, yeah. Recreation Commission, we meet tomorrow evening. School Facilities Improvement Committee, we met last Wednesday. We talked about the state of GMS and what future plans there could be if they try to build a school at that site and then 2 other sites. So a lot of speculation right now. And Capital Improvement Committee, we do not meet until December, Troy? Are we on for December 6th? 6th, I think. Yeah. That's all I have. Mr. Leary.
Budget Committee, we were presented with the school budget last week. And next week we will start going through it and making votes and doing what we do. There was one other item I wanted to mention. It has nothing to do with Budget Committee. It's more with what we do here. A lot of times we get presented things and we're asked to vote on them the same night. And it's very difficult with not being able to dive in and research things and get a really educated opinion on it. I know there's been other members of the board that have felt the same way. So I'm wondering if maybe there's something we can do to make it a policy not to be presented and vote on articles the same night. Or make it a practice.
I concur because I like to read some of the stuff, to research it. I don't like seeing it here and not validating it, okay, because we just get this. And I don't sit at a computer and wait for it during the day, same with you. Okay, I like to get it at least a week ahead of schedule so we can review it. Maybe we could vote at the next meeting, but we got to have something to review, okay, to ask questions on. That's how I feel about it. Now, there's some stuff, it's generic.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's how I feel about it.
And sometimes too, you need a week to think about it. And then you think all of a sudden, well, wait a minute. Maybe
And we
it's
saw
supposed
that
to be
happen
this way.
already. We
Yeah.
saw that happen once already here.
So it sounds great, and then you just go back and think about it. Well, wait a minute, this is affected,
Yep.
or I need to follow up, like I said, with another group or other people.
I see no issue.
Cool. I think something I know Troy gets tied up, can't get it out in time, or whatever the case may be. It happens. Okay, but like I emailed him on this last week. And I said, there's some of the things here too, we have getting that sent to us so we could read about it and be ready for it, That's all.
If we do ever get caught up, we can just ask to table it to the next week.
True.
That'd be good. Yeah.
So don't get too close to the deadlines.
You don't get them to the deadline either.
Yeah.
They're still waiting for
That's-
information, right?
How much stress we put on you?
That's kind of a business, but yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff can be driven, we have a lot of committees so you have to understand when we're going to take that kind of position, that is a total change for everyone. It will be.
Well, the committees study this stuff. They go through the event, they go through it, then they submit it. And we, at the meeting, we get it that night going, whoa, we needed to digest this a little bit better.
I think we're talking about stuff with substance.
You
know, accepting an appointment as an alternate.
Yeah,
That's not the issue. So
Yeah, that's
I'm
what
not
I mean.
referring to that.
Something with substance to it.
Yeah, I want something that, it's got verbiage. This one, you want to join? Congratulations, we need you. But, reports or something like that you may get, and just want to research it. Kim, this is fantastic. Okay, it makes me understand it a lot better.
But you didn't give them enough notice.
I
You should've sent
didn't.
that a week
And I have
ago.
to send it to you.
And we just got it? Oh.
That's me.
That's all I'm saying, okay?
I have no problem with that. It will be
It's not you.
No, I'm just saying, because I'm kind of it all kind of goes through me.
It does.
Yes.
You are the traffic cop.
Yep.
So, as long as everyone understands that, some things don't go on the agenda. I have department heads, I have committees that come to me on Friday afternoon, and I guess that kind of stuff's not going to be put on the agenda.
Well, it's your discretion. If you think it's something that doesn't have a lot of substance to it, it's quick.
Yeah, that's I guess it'll be a learning process.
Right.
I mean, I kind of know what you're talking about, but still, you're always going to have that issue that's always sort of in the middle. But a lot of times, what you do is on the agenda, you put it down introduction.
Yep.
I think just having that keyword, preliminary discussion, it sets the tone that no decision is expected
We made that night.
that night. It's a preliminary discussion or an introduction.
Is that everything, Bob?
That's everything for me
Okay. Mr. Lynch.
that I can think of.
Oh, conservation? Had a great time. They didn't show.
They didn't show.
No, we haven't had a meeting yet.
Okay, Mr. LaSalle's.
The Heritage Commission did not have a November meeting. We are planning to have a December meeting. So I really have nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. We do have one item left on the agenda this evening. It's a non-public session under RSA 91A:3-2A, dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee. Do we have a motion to go into non-public session?
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. LaSalle's.
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Lynch. Roll call vote. Ms. Queenan.
Oh, wait a minute. Yes. I, what am I saying? Yes.
I have a yes also.
3 weeks.
Still
Yes.
Screw everyone up and say certainly.
Why not?
Why not?
Mr. Lynch?
Why not? Yes.
LaSalle's.
Aye.
We are now in non-public session.
Should you,
Hope every-
should you say you have?
My whole thing,
Oh, okay.